Chapter 2080. Without the slightest scruple, when Crazy Bull landed on the Chi-Tian battle stage, his blood started boiling. He looked like a terrifying ancient bull as he released a sturdy and powerful strength in waves. His attack was terrifying. A path appeared between the ninth beast and him, like a herd of beasts were running towards the ninth beast. The ninth beast grunted icily. He stared at Crazy Bull with his bloodshot eyes, releasing Tao power which penetrated into Crazy Bull's brain. Patterns appeared again, the terrifying strength flowing throughout Crazy Bull's brain. At the same time, he raised his hand and roared in a thundering rage. The earth and sky kept shaking, his energies sending the wind howling. In his energies, people could see the ninth beast's totems. There were rumblings as Crazy Bull's Tao power slowly broke apart. The ninth beast rose up in the air and the path between them turned into a gigantic great rock, and then an eagle. It opened its wings, which blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Blood-red lights glittered. "Die!" shouted the ninth beast furiously. The scene of the massacre kept appearing in Crazy Bull's brain. At the same time, a terrifying Tao power continued oppressing Crazy Bull. His face turned deathly pale, and he could only grimace. He remained determined, even as his spirit shook. He shouted furiously, and the ground shook under his feet before he jumped forwards. His attack looked indestructible. The ninth beast looked at him in a disdainful way. He bombarded Crazy Bull's horn violently, and the horn exploded. At the same time, the strength continued penetrating into his body. He was driven backwards and his face became even paler, his mouth bleeding. As the crowd had expected, Crazy Bull the champion couldn't compete with the ninth beast. Nobody knew how the animal district had done this, but if the others were stronger than him, then it was really terrifying. The ninth beast kept assaulting Crazy Bull. Crazy Bull's had the impression his body was going to be crushed. He was a champion, he was really strong and looked crazed at this point. He turned into a gigantic ancient bull, covered all over with cuts and bruises. But he didn't care. He didn't want to give up. Even the ninth beast was surprised and a bit scared by his frenzy. Goblin Spirit University's strong cultivators stood up and stared at the Chi-Tian battle stage. One of them said, "That's enough, no need to fight anymore." Crazy Bull and the ninth beast collided once more. Crazy Bull was thrown off the Chi-Tian battle stage. The ninth beast jumped and chased Crazy Bull. "He's away from the Chi-Tian battle stage now, why chase him?" shouted a strong cultivator from Goblin Spirit University. He jumped forwards and landed before Crazy Bull, catching him and taking him away. The ninth beast could only watch him gloomily and sinisterly. Since he came onto the Chi-Tian battle stage and lost, why drift and live without purpose? Spat the ninth beast icily, then jumped back onto the Chi-Tian battle stage. He calmed down. A champion had just been defeated. How terrifying. The animal district are too powerful, nobody can compete with them, sighed the crowd. They were staring at the strong cultivators of the animal district. They still looked aloof and composed. They had everything under control. "Anyone else?" asked the ninth beast, glancing around at the members of the dynasties, ancient holy clans, and universities. He looked extremely evil. He looked like a bloodthirsty beast which wanted to devour its prey. He had even tried to kill Crazy Bull after he had already won. There was an eerie silence. Even though there were many geniuses in the Dark Knight region, champions were rare. Not many people were as strong as Crazy Bull. There were only a few people like Chu Chunqiu, and a few other people who were at the top of the Huang Qi layer, as well as people who had king-type bodies. Nobody had thought the animal district would have such strong cultivators. That's ridiculous. Chi-Tian Holy Town is so big and nobody dares fight, jeered someone at that moment, jumping forwards. It was the eighth beast. He glanced at the crowd and said icily, "Even if nobody wants to fight, I still want to ask everyone to prove that their high-level emperors are strong." He started flapping his gigantic wings. He suddenly rose high up in the air. He landed in front of the crowd of people from an ancient holy clan and looked at a high-level emperor. He shouted furiously, a horrible shriek splitting the air as the eighth beast grabbed him with his claws and instantly killed him by slicing apart his skull. "How insolent!" A strong cultivator of that ancient holy clan rose up into the air and pulled a long face. The eighth beast dared kill their people in front of them. The eighth beast didn't stop. His silhouette streaked across the sky and blood gushed. He killed another person from another ancient holy clan. The crowd was astonished. The eighth beast was stronger than the ninth beast. How terrible! And what about the other ones? The crowd couldn't imagine. Be careful, everyone said to their young people. The eighth beast was a high-level emperor and he only killed people of the same level, so people who were stronger couldn't attack him. If their high-level emperors were getting killed by the eighth beast, it just meant that their people weren't strong enough. Die. The eighth beast killed someone else. His wings were extremely sharp and covered with blood. Another head flew away as the atmosphere became oppressive. The eighth beast was too fast. The animal district's strong cultivators just watched at all the high-level emperors of the different dynasties, ancient holy clans and universities disdainfully. Be careful. Move back if you aren't sure you can resist. All the strong cultivators warned the people of their groups. The eighth beast was too fast. In a flash, he had killed a few strong cultivators already. High-level emperors couldn't compete with him. The eighth beast was too terrifying. Everybody was astonished. How had the animal district done this? Simple, they had sacrificed hundreds of thousands of their fellow beasts to allow 13 people to become extremely strong. There were sudden explosions. The crowd realized someone had just blocked the eighth beast. When the crowd saw him, they were astonished. That young man looked confident and at ease, no wonder, since he was so strong. People gulped. It was him, Wu Ju. He had the potential to become the first master of the Dark Knight region. Wu Ju can compete with him, but then, how many members of the Animal District have the potential to become first master of the Dark Knight region? The crowd shuddered with dread when they realized that. The thought was dreadful. The eighth beast stopped moving and smiled evilly. Not bad. You're the only one. He continued flapping his wings, and at that moment, people didn't dare block him, moving away to avoid him. When the eighth beast arrived in front of the members of the Qin dynasty, Saint Tianhuan's gray eyes twinkled, filled with lightning. Insolent, said Saint Tianhun icily, and jumped forwards. Gray lights emerged from his eyes. Red lights emerged from the eighth beast's eyes, both colliding. The eighth beast had the impression his soul was going to explode. How strong! The eighth beast was stupefied. He closed his eyes and swiftly flew back, saying icily, "You're very strong." The crowd looked at Saint Tianhun. Who was this person? Surprisingly, the eighth beast said he was very strong. He was a stranger to everyone, however. At that moment, Saint Tianhuan's eyes glittered. I understood something, said Saint Tianhun icily. The animal district was indeed sly. Surprisingly, they had used a terrifying sacrificial ritual. How mad! The eighth beast continued killing people around. When he landed in front of the Holy Spirit dynasty, he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng condensed terrifying cosmic energies. Lightning gathered around him as his eyes turned as gray as thunderclouds. The eighth beast flashed towards him. Lin Feng jumped forwards in response, staring the eighth beast in the eyes. Those eyes were filled with flames of fury. Lin Feng raised his fist and punched out against the eighth beast's claws. It's you, said the seventh beast. He grabbed Hu Yu with his claws and jumped onto the stage. The eighth beast stopped and looked at him icily. Lin Feng looked at the seventh beast and said indifferently, It's me. The seventh beast sneered when Lin Feng admitted it was him. Then he glanced at Hu Yu. Hu Yu studied Lin Feng. She didn't understand. Why was this person trying to save her? Lin Feng took a step forwards. He looked at the seventh beast and said icily, Let her go and I won't fight today. The seventh beast sneered, his eyes bloodshot, and said, You're not fighting today? Then I'll kill her on the spot. The terrifying invisible and intangible sound wave strength dispersed. The crowd was astonished as the buzzing sound stopped. Soundwave attack. What a terrifying soundwave cosmic energy. Invisible and powerful. You can't even hear it, but each sound wave is as sharp as a sword. How deadly! Someone blurted out. As expected, The eighth beast's sharp claws collided with the sound waves and a hurricane appeared. At the same time, the crowd saw Lin Feng move his hand towards the eighth beast. The eighth beast had the impression a mountain had fallen onto his back. He released as much strength as he could, but he still felt oppressed. The two fighters were drawing closer and closer to one another. "Die!" shouted the eighth beast furiously. His claws became dazzling and golden. They were great oriental greenfinch roc's claws, but there were dragon scales on them, forming a terrifying defense. He was a mixed breed. Lin Feng's clothes were ripped apart by the claws. The strength almost pierced through his skin, his hair bristled. The attack hadn't even reached him, and he was already having a hard time. However, at the same time, he condensed demon culpa strength, then moved faster than they could see. Demon lights pulsed out. People's hearts were pounding. Two of his clones also released strength. The eighth beast was stupefied. The clones also have strength? He didn't have time to think too much. He attacked Lin Feng's real body in front of him, the collision raising a strong wind. Red lights and demon lights exploded together. The two clones also attacked. The eighth beast shouted explosively as their energies collided explosively. He blocked one clone, but not the other one. At the same time, Lin Feng's real body came back to him. Lin Feng raised his demon hands, aimed at the eighth beast's head, and there was a crack of impact that astonished those watching. Blood splashed, but the beast didn't escape from Lin Feng. "He resisted so many attacks," murmured those watching. Their hearts twitched. He seemed like he wanted to capture the eighth beast. How strong? Who is he? The crowd was astonished. Since when was there such a strong cultivator in the Holy Spirit dynasty? "Who are you?" asked someone at that moment. It was a member of the ancient Jade dynasty. She looked furious and she was staring at Lin Feng. The members of the Tianxi dynasty also stood up. Their holy emperor even stood up and stared at Lin Feng. Everybody was staring at Lin Feng. "Who am I?" repeated Lin Feng, smiling icily. He looked at the seventh beast and said icily, "Let her go. Continue fighting." "It's not over," replied the seventh beast disdainfully. He hadn't used his full strength yet. "I told you to release her," said Lin Feng icily. He condensed strength in his hands again. Many strong cultivators of the animal district finally stood up and pulled a long face. They had raised their 13 geniuses. These people were the future of the animal district. Chapter 2082, Decisive Battle. Huyu was astonished. She hadn't thought that little boy would become this strong. Back in the days, she was the one who had to protect him. She remembered back then when she used to take him to all her friends to teach. Back then, emperors could bully Lin Feng easily. Now, he was here and he had captured the eighth beast, just so the animal district would release her. "Little boy," Huyu smiled. She had the impression she was in a dream. When the seventh beast had told her someone wanted to save her, she would have never thought it would be Lin Feng. "Sister Huyu," replied Lin Feng, smiling back at her in greeting. At that moment, everybody was staring at Lin Feng. The atmosphere became oppressive. Lin Feng, he didn't die back then during that battle. No wonder he has become so much stronger. It's Lin Feng. No wonder. Back then, Lin Feng fought against 8 geniuses and killed 5. Now, even though the 8th beast is much stronger than those people back then, he can still compete with him. It's not surprising since it's Lin Feng. The crowd was staring at him. Had the animal district captured one of his women? But that woman had to be a beast. The holy emperors of the Qin dynasty and the ancient Jade dynasty had all stood up. They released a terrifying qi towards Lin Feng. He wasn't dead yet. Back then, the ancient holy clans and dynasties wanted to kill Lin Feng and had joined hands. Their 8 geniuses had fought against him and failed. Now, Lin Feng was back and he had shown up without the slightest scruple. Lin Feng, a strong cultivator from the ancient Jade dynasty, spoke up. She asked icily, "You captured our holy princess, right?" They immediately thought of Lin Feng. Lin Feng was wearing a mask just now, and he also used clones. He was extremely good at fighting, and he hated the holy princess. Everything seemed to lead to Lin Feng. "The holy Jade princess is so beautiful. After sleeping with her, I made her leave." Hasn't she come back to the ancient Jade dynasty yet? Asked Lin Feng, smiling indifferently. When he said that, everybody was astonished. Lin Feng had raped the holy Jade princess? The members of the ancient Jade dynasty all had unsightly expressions. All the ancient Jade dynasty's beautiful women wanted to kill me back then. However, I don't mind, I love beautiful women, I wish I could deflower all of you. I just had sex with her, anyway. I hope you don't mind, continued Lin Feng, smiling dismissively. The members of the ancient Jade dynasty were furious and released even more energies. But they couldn't say anything. They had joined hands to fight against Lin Feng and they had failed. Now he was back and the Snow Clan wasn't there to help. Could they still kill him? Lin Feng was backed up by Shiju Lao Xian. Lin Feng also controlled the saint's body. They couldn't do anything to him. They hadn't forgotten what Shiju Lao Xian had told them back then. When the crowd remembered those things, they looked amused. Lin Feng could beat the animal district's strong cultivators. He had a powerful background, he was a good fighter, he could compete with the 8th beast and 9th beast. How strong was he in comparison with the other young beast masters? You want your woman to die? Ice-cold bestial chi invaded the atmosphere and the 7th beast grabbed Hu Yu's head. Lin Feng punched out in the 8th beast's direction and shouted explosively, "If you touch her again, I'll kill him." "Will you dare?" shouted someone from the animal district icily. "Of course I'll dare," replied Lin Feng. Bestial chi surrounded Lin Feng, but he looked incongruently calm as he looked back at them. He said grimly, "If you don't believe me, try and you'll see." The members of the animal district remained silent. A strong cultivator of the animal district looked at Lin Feng calmly and said to the 7th beast, "Release her." For the animal district, Hu Yu's life was far less important than the 8th beast's. They had spent so many resources on these people. They had done all they could, using a special technique to raise them. Therefore, the 13 young masters couldn't die. The 7th beast was speechless, but he released Hu Yu, sneering, "Piss off." Hu Yu didn't look at the 7th beast and flashed over to Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng was still holding the 8th beast. "We released her already. What are you waiting for?" demanded the 7th beast icily. "Patience, my friend," said Lin Feng smiling. He said to Hu Yu, "Sister Hu Yu, follow me." Lin Feng grabbed her and flew over to the Holy Spirit Dynasty's Holy Emperor and said to the 8th beast, "You go back." A strong wind crashed onto the 8th beast and flung him away. The 7th beast jumped up to catch the 8th beast and glared at Lin Feng icily. However, Lin Feng was looking at Hu Yu and asked, "Sister Hu Yu, they didn't do anything to you, right?" "They didn't." "Little boy, you progressed so quickly," answered Hu Yu. She still looked sexy in her red robe and put her arms around him, smiling. "Sister Hu Yu, you haven't changed," said Lin Feng, smiling wryly. Hu Yu was so close to him, her beautiful eyes kept twinkling. "I saw you grow up, you don't need to hide anything from me," said Lin Feng, shrugging. He smiled and said, "Anyway, I need to solve this issue." Hu Yu looked at the members of the animal district and then let go of Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at the 7th beast and 8th beast. They also looked back at him ferociously. "You want to play so bad?" Lin Feng looked at the 2 young beast masters. He wanted to fight. These young beast masters were terrifyingly strong. They wanted to show everyone how strong they were. "Of course, we all do." Wu Ju jumped up, his face surrounded by a halo. In his white robe, he looked elegant, confident, and at ease. He smiled at Lin Feng. "I would have never thought you were Lin Feng. You captured the Holy Jade Princess and raped her. You're really audacious. You're as brave as me, if not more so." Lin Feng replied to Wu Ju. Wu Ju had provoked the Holy Jade Princess and Yi Tianjiao at the same time. He was as strong as he was audacious. "Therefore, together," said Wu Ju with a smile. He slowly walked up to the Qi Tian battle stage. The one on the battle stage was still the 9th beast. "Since you want to play, I'll play with you," said the 9th beast scornfully. "Since you want to play, all together," said Wu Ju indifferently. The 8th beast and 7th beast's bodies turned into red light beams. They both jumped onto the Qi Tian battle stage at the same time and released bestial qi. "If you want to fight, I'd love to," said Lin Feng indifferently. He also jumped onto the Chi-Tian battle stage, 5 incredible emperors on the battle stage at the same time. Who else wants to play? Wu Ju looked at the people from the dynasties and the holy clans. Actually, he was mainly looking at Saint Tian Hun, who was with the members of the Qin dynasty. A moment before, he had been the only one, along with Lin Feng, who had managed to compete with the 8th beast. He was very strong. Saint Tianhuan's eyes glittered darkly. After that, he slowly stood up, moving as if he had had no bones, and quickly landed on the Chi-Tian battle stage. There were now 6 people on the battle stage, all geniuses among emperors. Ordinary emperors couldn't compete with such people. Only people who were extremely talented, good at fighting, and determined could normally become like that, but there were exceptions. Saint Tian Hun the Body Stealer, and the 13 young beast masters. Die! Shouted the beasts as they released bestial qi, bursting into motion. The 7th beast threw himself at Lin Feng. The 8th beast attacked Wu Ju. The 9th beast charged Saint Tian Hun. The 3 beasts had a single common point: their bestial qi was explosive. A bunch of deadly fighters, murmured those watching. No wonder that only 3 people could compete with those beasts. But what about the 10 other beasts? How strong were they? The 7th beast turned into a terrifying red beam of light. It was like an ocean of blood was flooding towards Lin Feng. That blood contained endless skeletons who wanted to eat Lin Feng alive. The terrifying ocean surged closer to Lin Feng. Lin Feng could tell the ocean of blood was much more powerful than his previous opponent's energies. Lin Feng stretched out his hands, fissures appeared, and the ocean of blood divided into 2. At the same time, he ran forwards as sound waves destroyed the skeletons in the ocean of blood. Chapter 2083. Venerable Sacrificial Soul Fire. Lin Feng and the 7th beast fought for the second time. The ocean of blood kept rolling and splashing around them. However, Lin Feng condensed ancient imprints, ancient words appeared around him, resonating with the earth and sky. At the same time, he also released sword energies to surround his body. The sword curtain and the earth and sky became one, and everything in their way broke apart, the ocean of blood turning into endless tiny drops. The 7th beast, who had turned into a blood light, withdrew quickly. He looked at Lin Feng ferociously. The 7th beast's eyes were so bloodshot, it was like wanted to stab Lin Feng with them. He was excited. He had thought he'd kill Lin Feng easily after the sacrifice, but realizing it wasn't the case made him happy. He still had a rictus grin warping one side of his face. At the same time, the 8th beast and Wu Ju were fighting, and the 9th beast and Saint Tian Hun were dueling. The battles were dreadful. The 3 beasts had similar attacks: explosive, brutal, violent. Wu Ju condensed all sorts of strength in his punches. They seemed indestructible. The 9th beast and Saint Tianhuan's battle looked less violent and brutal than the 2 other groups. However, the 9th beast felt different. He was astonished at the saint's strength. It was like Saint Tianhun wanted to absorb his soul. Everybody was astonished and blankly staring at the battle. Those 3 young beastmasters were dreadful foes. They could compete with all the geniuses of Chi-Tian Holy Town. No wonder they had challenged everyone. But now there were 3 people who could match them. At that moment, the 7th beast stretched out his hands and a gigantic weapon appeared. Those watching shuddered with dread. There were bestial marks on it, and its chi was ominous. Animal world brutal weapon, bestial marks axe. Some strong cultivators' eyes glittered when they saw it. That weapon was extremely rare. Ordinary beasts couldn't use and control such weapons. It required many beasts to be sealed inside it. The more beasts, the more explosive the weapon was. The 7th beast had probably sacrificed many beasts to create that weapon. The bestial marks axe is terrifying. Lin Feng is extremely strong, but it's getting dangerous for him. Can he compete with the 7th beast? Someone wondered aloud. The 7th beast roared in a thundering rage and jumped forwards. You're quite talented, but now I'm going to offer your blood to my weapon. The 7th beast's axe descended from the sky, fissures in space following it. A terrifying amount of strength fell on Lin Feng. It felt like millions of bloodthirsty beasts were attacking him. Even his godly awareness shook. Lin Feng had a hallucination that he really was surrounded by millions of beasts. Lin Feng raised his hands and condensed more ancient imprints as quickly as possible. The words of his incantation all appeared and surrounded him as he steadfastly stood his ground. At the same time, a holy spirit appeared around him, a demon king or god of death surrounded by death chi. Everything began to rot around him. Lin Feng ran towards the seventh beast, the words from the incantation rotating around him like dark hymns. At the same time, his blood was boiling as he turned into a gigantic axe. Strength pulsed all around him. The bestial axe was a beast's weapon, aggressive and explosive. Swords were sharp and swift. Axes were heavy, so Lin Feng couldn't really use a sword to destroy that axe, so in the end he also used an axe. It was heavier and more aggressive, more appropriate. Lin Feng the axe charged to meet his enemy's weapon. Both were releasing terrifying amounts of chi. They were both using their blood spirit strength. That's how these weapons were made. A terrifying chi bore down on the seventh beast. The seventh beast had the impression he was going to be crushed. The seventh beast raised his axe higher up, strength condensing. The earth and sky kept shaking violently. His blood strength was rising with the beast axe to an astonishing level. The axe tore apart the air, chi filled the air above the Chi Tian battle stage. Axes were explosive weapons, and the seventh beast attacked 9 times in a row, each time shaking the earth and sky. The strength of the axe was monstrous as it collided with Lin Feng's. Dreadful energies exploded unceasingly and made the Chi Tian battle stage shake violently. Crackling sounds sounded as the bestial axe began to crack. It was going to break apart. Lin Feng's gigantic axe relentlessly pressed forwards, and the seventh beast felt pressured. The seventh beast spat out blood. He turned into a red beam of light and retreated as fast as he could. The gigantic axe turned back into Lin Feng. Saint's technique, ancient holy technique. It can oppress anything as expected. Even the seventh beast was forced to move away. However, he's really extremely strong. He managed to protect himself and probably wants to continue fighting, murmured the crowd when they saw that. Lin Feng was terrifying, but the young beastmasters were also fearsome, especially as they became stronger. On the other side, the battle between the eighth beast and Wu Ju was also becoming more and more dangerous, explosions ringing out about them. Saint Tianhun at that moment was surrounded by 81 flames. The ninth beast was astonished at the sight. The seventh beast attacked again too. He flew towards Lin Feng at full speed, but Lin Feng was charging him too. Aggressive demon energies swept out. Dozens of swords kept appearing behind him. Lin Feng pointed his finger at the seventh beast and a sword shot out. Saint Tianhun also moved, turning into a shadow, his silhouette becoming blurry. The ninth beast looked ready to battle. However, at that moment, Lin Feng frowned and suddenly turned around. He saw a silhouette moving towards him. The 81 flames were attacking him. Everybody was completely astonished. That person, who had come with the members of the Qin dynasty, was attacking Lin Feng. Even the beasts of the animal district were astonished. The ninth beast released even more qi and ran towards Lin Feng. Qin gone. Holy Emperor Ling suddenly stood up and shouted furiously, "Lin Feng and the 2 others are fighting against the animal district, and now your guest is backstabbing Lin Feng. It's the Chi Tian battle stage, anyone can fight against anyone as long as they agree," said Qin Gong calmly. He didn't control Saint Tianhun. He didn't know why Saint Tianhun would suddenly attack Lin Feng, either. But when he saw that, he shuddered with fear. What did Saint Tianhun intend to do? He felt responsible for both Lin Feng and Saint Tianhun. With the other holy emperors, he had managed to convince Saint Tianhun to join them. It was good for them, but they couldn't control him. As for Lin Feng, he still had their ancestors' body. The members of the ancient Jade dynasty and the Great Desert dynasty remained silent too, naturally. They even looked amused. Even if Saint Tianhun failed, it didn't have anything to do with them. They just knew that Saint Tianhuan's strength was terrifying. They couldn't know what spells, techniques and skills he knew, though he was a saint, after all. Lin Feng sensed the 81 flames move towards him, his spirit shaking violently. He grimaced, knowing that fire was dangerous. It was a sacrificial fire, its purpose was to burn his soul. He suddenly released even more death energies. He wanted to extinguish the fire, however, the fire seemed indestructible. Saint Tianhun said telepathically, "Venerable sacrificial soul fire, you can't destroy it." Then, the fire pierced through Lin Feng's death Dao strength and shot towards his soul. Lin Feng's face twisted. He hadn't thought such a terrifying cultivator would attack him. It was definitely a holy technique. Chapter 2084, Battle to Death? He practices soul cultivation and he has studied some saints' techniques. It was the first time Lin Feng had to deal with such terrifying cultivators. People who practiced soul cultivation were rare. The first person he had met who did was Mu Chen, and the second one was this opponent. His attack was some kind of sacrificial fire. Apparently, the ninth beast wasn't his main target. His main target was Lin Feng. He wanted Lin Feng's soul. If this man managed to succeed, Lin Feng guessed the consequences would be horrible. Lin Feng couldn't let him win. He had to kill him. Lin Feng suddenly sat down cross-legged and dozens of gigantic swords rotated around him and protected him. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng surprisingly sat down cross-legged before his enemy. Lin Feng had no choice but to use his full strength to protect himself. The ninth beast stopped, wiping off the blood at the corner of his mouth. The seventh beast also looked at Lin Feng, a red light emerging from his third eye and shooting towards Lin Feng. But when it penetrated into Lin Feng's third eye, he was stupefied and his face stiffened. Dazzling lights flashed in his eyes and he looked at Saint Tianhun deeply. What a powerful soul attack! His thread of soul had been instantly destroyed. Some people practice soul cultivation. I understand why they are considered terrifying now, sighed the seventh beast. He didn't continue attacking Lin Feng. Even Wu Ju and the eighth beast stopped fighting. Wu Ju's silhouette flickered. He landed next to Lin Feng and looked at him. Then he looked at Saint Tianhun, who was seated cross-legged as well. He was using his venerable sacrificial soul fire attack. He had to use his full strength to succeed, otherwise, stealing Lin Feng's soul wouldn't be easy at all. The previous time, he had failed to steal Lin Feng's body, but now he had another opportunity and he couldn't let it slip. Lin Feng had the Qin Saint's body, but Saint Tianhun didn't care, as without a soul, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to use it anymore. He was a soul cultivator. Saint Tianhun understood how Lin Feng controlled the saint's body better than anyone. Of course, he wasn't going to tell anyone else about those things. At that moment, Lin Feng used all the Wisdom Kings to protect himself. He had to destroy that damn fire. However, the 81 flames surrounded the 5 Wisdom Kings. They were about to collapse. However, they managed to destroy the flames. One flame was left, but instantly 81 flames appeared again. As long as one flame was left, the other flames could reappear. It was extremely dangerous. Lin Feng's soul suddenly turned into a sharp black sword. It was dark. It emerged from his third eye, and the 81 flames followed as well. At the same time, on the Qi Tian battle stage, Lin Feng's sword and the venerable sacrificial soul fire appeared outside above the Qi Tian battle stage. The darkness of the sword made everything look pale on the Qi Tian battle stage below. Lin Feng also released glittering Devamara Kalpa strength. Lin Feng's soul had been cleansed by Devamara Kalpa strength many times. The 81 flames looked pure and pale. It had been purified many times. Tianhun had used it to burn millions of souls in his life and carry out sacrifices. Then, apart from his soul sword, Lin Feng also released a golden palace. It was dazzling. There were millions of marks on it, marks of the great Tao. Then, the palace surrounded the soul sword. The sword is made of Lin Feng's soul. The palace is made of his godly awareness palace. Lin Feng is worried. Those watching could see. The terrifying 81 flames oppressed Lin Feng's soul. At that moment, Lin Feng's body was just a shell. His psychic essences were outside. At the same time, a gray strength emerged from Saint Tianhun and moved towards Lin Feng. It turned into a gray cloud. At the same time, in front of the gray cloud, a pitch-black light appeared and condensed into a long spear which thrust out towards Lin Feng at full speed. However, Saint Tianhuan's real body was still seated cross-legged. He wants Lin Feng's physical body? Body capture? Initially, he was fighting against the ninth beast and suddenly he attacked Lin Feng. Is it because of his body? At that moment, the crowd remembered that Lin Feng had an incredible body. He had been on the Holy Way stage and had many secrets. He also had possession of a saint's body. However, this guy wanted to steal Lin Feng's body? What about his current body? Wasn't it his? When the crowd thought about that, they shivered. The animal district had come back to life and now a terrifying cultivator had appeared. Wu Ju moved in front of Lin Feng and looked at the spear moving towards him. Wu Ju looked confident and at ease. This was a soul attack. Ancient imprints emerged from his third eye and turned into a destructive punch. Rumbling sounds spread in the air, the long spear broke apart. However, the gray chi penetrated into Lin Feng's third eye. People's faces stiffened. Lin Feng's soul is still there, it hasn't been destroyed, and that guy is trying to steal Lin Feng's body anyway, which means that he perfectly controls his soul strength. The crowd was staring at Lin Feng. The animal district's strong cultivators just watched, including the 3 young beast masters. They had retreated to the edge of the battle stage and were watching. Lin Feng, who you looked extremely nervous. Saint Tianhun was evil and cruel. Lin Feng was in danger. At that moment, a terrifying sword determination exploded, gray chi splashed out of Lin Feng's third eye. Dual soul. The gray chi hurriedly retreated to Saint Tianhuan's third eye. He opened his eyes and looked at the sword spirit in disbelief. What kind of spell had Lin Feng learned? Surprisingly, he had 2 souls, and one of them was indestructible. Soul sacrifice. Saint Tianhun raised a finger and the venerable sacrificial soul fire moved towards Lin Feng's godly awareness palace. However, the godly awareness palace became dazzling and turned into a hall. Lin Feng's soul strength was being cleansed. He was using lots of godly awareness strength, but Saint Tianhun was still astonished. Lin Feng's defenses were astonishing. Tianhun made some hand seals. White flames appeared that seemed like they could destroy anything. The air above the Qi Tian battle stage turned white with heat. That fire was astonishing. The godly awareness palace was burning. The flames then started attacking Lin Feng's soul sword. The sword of darkness kept glittering, and demon Kulpa's strength destroyed the fire. The white fire and the darkness kept intertwining. Everybody understood that this was a battle to the death. Lin Feng might get killed. Even if he has 2 souls, if his soul sword is destroyed, he'll die. The crowd looked at Lin Feng, who was bleeding. He was having a hard time. Of course, Saint Tianhun was also sweating, his soul strength pulsing around him. He would have never thought an emperor could be so strong. He had done so much to become so strong, and now it had become difficult. Lin Feng released cosmic energies which turned into a sharp sword, and then multiplied. They started fusing together, his body changing, and people's hearts started pounding. Everybody's expressions changed as they stared at Lin Feng. He can still move? Wu Ju was amazed. Lin Feng released ancient imprints, a word appeared, and he used the power of his incantation. When he used his incantation attack, his strength became explosive. His real body turned into a sharp sword and streaked across the sky, shooting towards Saint Tianhun. Saint Tianhuan's face turned deathly pale as he grimaced. He had thought he had almost succeeded, and yet Lin Feng still had strength to counterattack. He had been waiting for such a moment the whole time. Saint Tianhun was also exhausted. He had done all he could using the venerable sacrificial soul fire. Saint Tianhun waved his hand and many spears shot towards Lin Feng's gigantic sword, exploding against it. At the same time, he looked unhappy and recalled his fire. The 81 flames moved back into his third eye. A gigantic black fist appeared in the air and blocked the gigantic sword and pushed it away. Phew! Saint Tianhun opened his eyes. He was shaking. He didn't look calm and poised anymore. Lin Feng's real body reappeared, his face deathly pale. Nobody could imagine how he felt, but the pressure was incredible. "You're that damn saint," said Lin Feng to Saint Tianhun icily. Everybody's heart started pounding again. A saint. Chapter 2085. Animal District's announcement. Lin Feng had already had to deal with Saint Tianhun in the saint's world at the altar. He had used his soul strength to attack Lin Feng there. Now he had a new body, but still wanted Lin Feng's body. Venerable sacrificial soul fire, holy technique strength, this guy controlled so many saint spells, skills, and techniques. Even the Qin dynasty didn't have such things. He was definitely a saint. When the crowd heard Lin Feng, they looked at Saint Tianhun sharply. A saint? In the crowd, apart from holy emperors, nobody knew the truth, so they were astonished, especially since Saint Tianhun had just tried to steal Lin Feng's body. It meant that it was indeed possible. When stealing someone's body, it was impossible to recover one's own strength completely, so the best thing was still to grow up and become stronger step by step. Therefore, unless they had been killed, cultivators never tried to steal people's bodies. And on top of that, only extremely strong cultivators usually learned the technique. This guy who was extremely strong wanted to give up his body to steal Lin Feng's. It probably meant that the body he had wasn't his own body. I don't know what you mean, replied Saint Tianhun. He naturally wasn't going to admit Lin Feng was right. He hadn't thought that someone would be able to compete with him at the same cultivation level after coming back to life. Perhaps his cultivation level hadn't completely stabilized, otherwise, nobody would have been able to compete with him, including Lin Feng. Back then in the spirit world, you wanted to steal my body. Now the Qin dynasty hid you and helped you come back to life. But you haven't changed, because you're still not satisfied. Master Tianhun, for my body, you're really ready to do anything. Spat Lin Feng icily. He was quite strong and still Saint Tianhun had posed a threat to him. At the same cultivation level, a saint who had come back to life was stronger than anyone else with a few exceptions, especially if the body he had captured wasn't powerful enough. He needed time to become really strong again. I'll be merciful this time, said Saint Tianhun, staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was really strong, killing him was difficult, his soul and his new body had to fuse together better for him to be strong enough. He needed to become stronger, then he'd be able to burn Lin Feng's soul with his venerable sacrificial soul fire and be able to capture his body. Saint Tianhun jumped off the Qi Tian battle stage. He had used too much strength against Lin Feng and couldn't continue fighting. He was a saint. His goal wasn't to defeat the animal district's cultivators, but to become stronger and then become one of the strongest cultivators of the continent of the Nine Clouds once again. He was convinced that the members of the animal district had the same goal. Lin Feng ignored Saint Tianhun. Since he was a saint who had come back to life, Lin Feng couldn't kill him easily. He felt under pressure though. The saint would progress quickly, and the saint's memories were precious treasures. At that moment, Lin Feng nodded at Wu Ju. He smiled and said, "Why did you help me?" "I helped you," replied Wu Ju airily, which naturally made Lin Feng smile. He didn't say anything else. Wu Ju was an interesting guy and a strong fighter. Lin Feng looked at the seventh beast and said indifferently, "You're still not strong enough." He jumped off the Qi Tian battle stage. Like Saint Tianhun, he had used too much strength and felt tired. That soul fire technique was too powerful. He was injured. "Everybody come back," said a strong cultivator of the animal district calmly. The three young beast masters also withdrew. Thousands of years have passed. There are still some geniuses in Qi Tian Holy Town. However, they are disappointing. Almost nobody has the potential to become a peerless cultivator someday, said the strong cultivator of the animal district calmly. He remained seated. Lin Feng and the two others were exceptions. They were geniuses and it was normal, but that one who was staying with the members of the Qi Tian Holy Town was a saint, so he didn't even count if that was the case. When the crowd heard him, they were speechless. The animal district had come back to life and those battles were a way to show it to everyone. At that moment, a strong wind started blowing. The crowd saw a young beast master rise up in the air. It was the first one, a great emperor. He glanced at all the strong cultivators of Qi Tian Holy Town. Suddenly he waved his hands, and in a flash, bestial qi rose up in the air. A dragon, a unicorn, a turtle, and a wind beast streaked across the sky and two gigantic words appeared in the sky, Animal District. Then, the first Beastmaster said indifferently, "From today, humans are prohibited from going to the Animal District in a circumference of 3,000 li. The Animal District is back in town." Then he returned to his place. People's hearts started pounding violently. The first young beastmaster was terrifyingly strong. They hadn't seen how strong he was, but he was probably as strong as Shui Ao from the Snow Clan. Lin Feng went back to the group of people from the Holy Spirit Dynasty and looked at the two gigantic words in the sky. He was impressed. The animal district had just come back to life, and they were astonishingly strong. At that moment, Lin Feng realized that he didn't belong to the same world as before anymore. He was already starting to fight against the strongest cultivators of his generation. He had started in a small world, then he had gone to the 9 great celestial castles, traveled around in the great world, gone to the vast celestial ancient city, then to the holy city and Chi Tian holy town, and now his activities involved the whole Dark Night region. It all would have been unthinkable many years before. You would have never thought it was possible for him to progress so fast, for example. Lin Feng was so strong that almost no emperor could fight against him anymore. You understood that there was a huge difference between people who had reached the top of the Huangqi layer and people who had the potential to become peerless cultivators and were at the top of the Huangqi layer. Many people could reach the top of the Huangqi layer, but few people had the potential to become peerless cultivators someday. Someday, they'd have no enemies at all. At that moment, the strong cultivators of the animal district stood up and left without saying any more. Their bestial qi dispersed as they disappeared from people's field of vision. The animal district has announced they have come back. In the future, they'll probably become the strongest cultivators in town, someone murmured. They were worried. Everybody go back, said Qin Gan indifferently after standing up. Everybody remained silent. This battle had been too shocking, and the dynasties had lost face. Lin Feng, said someone from the ancient Jade dynasty side, where's the holy Jade princess? Maybe that she didn't want to go back to the ancient Jade dynasty after we had sex. How could I know where she is or what she thinks? Go and ask her, replied Lin Feng, waving his hand dismissively. Would the ancient Jade dynasty have to choose a new holy woman? The ancient Jade dynasty had no solution. After the crowd left, the battle stage was still floating in the air. It had witnessed countless battles in history. Now the animal district had oppressed all the dynasties on it, and they had announced nobody could go into their territory anymore. Perhaps other beasts would come to Chi Tian Holy Town to join them in the future. From one day to the next, things had changed in Chi Tian Holy Town. After that, Lin Feng waited outside the Holy Spirit Dynasty and received some guests, mostly Tiantai's strong cultivators, Ho Qing Lin, Tian Qi, Ruoxie, Tantai, Huang Fulong, and the others. They had all come. There were many other cultivators from Tiantai, including people who had joined after them. Lin Feng was happy to see them. Holy Dynasty Prince. They walked on the Holy Dynasty Prince's territory and realized everyone was bowing before Lin Feng respectfully. He was their Holy Dynasty Prince. Lin Feng had been one of 3 people who had been able to compete with the beast masters of the animal district. The Holy Spirit Dynasty was quite happy about that. Lin Feng nodded at everyone. Tantai smiled. Lin Feng, you have a high position here. The Holy Spirit Dynasty and I have excellent relations. Why did you come here, guys? Asked Lin Feng to his friends. We need to travel to become stronger at our cultivation level. Many people from Tiantai are already high-level emperors. We want to travel in the Dark Night region. We want to try and become great emperors, said Ho Qing Lin calmly. Lin Feng nodded agreement. Traveling and seeing many strong cultivators was a good way to become stronger. Chapter 2086. Mu Chen's news. Lin Feng took them to a palace. Holy Emperor Ling welcomed them personally. He smiled at Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng, these young people are all outstanding. Are they our friends? They're all from Champion University, and some of them come from the small world like me. We're like brothers and sisters, Lin Feng said to Holy Emperor Ling. Holy Emperor Ling nodded and smiled. Your friends are outstanding and extraordinary. In a few years, they'll amaze the whole region. Naturally. I hope they will all reach the maximum level on the path of cultivation and become peerless cultivators, Lin Feng said calmly. He sounded incredibly confident. He had faith in himself, but also in Ho Qing Lin and the others. They had all received the celestial evolution holy scriptures, as well as many other precious treasures. If they were determined enough, they could all become peerless cultivators. They just needed to practice, to be determined, and to give all they could. Back then, Ho Qing Lin and Jian Mang had tried to go onto the Holy Way stage. 2 more steps. Their blood and body as well as potential needed to be improved, but their determination was not a problem at all. Lin Feng's Kulpa Indestructible Devamara skill and his Devamara Kulpa Strength Cleansing technique were perfect for him, so in terms of body, there was no problem, but might not be good enough for them. When Holy Emperor Ling heard Lin Feng, he smiled to himself. Lin Feng was young and arrogant sometimes, but he could be that way because he was strong enough. When the Beast Masters had shown up, Lin Feng had remained fearless. He had even made the 7th beast flinch. The saint had even attacked him by surprise, but had failed. Holy Emperor Ling was convinced that if Lin Feng didn't die, he'd become a peerless cultivator sooner or later. Since they're your friends, they can come in, Holy Emperor Ling said cheerfully, nodding at everyone. He organized a banquet for them. Everyone sat down and Holy Emperor Ling asked, Lin Feng, the animal district came back. Do you know why? There's something secret going on? Asked Lin Feng, intrigued. Maybe that they're not only interested in Qi Tian Holy Town, maybe they want the Beast Masters to get ready for the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, proposed Holy Emperor Ling calmly. Lin Feng frowned, not understanding. The continent of the 9 clouds is divided into several regions: godly clouds, dark clouds, green jade clouds, red clouds, bright clouds, jade clouds, blue pale clouds, purple clouds, supreme clouds. People rarely travel between the different regions because there are only 2 ways of traveling between regions. The first one is to cross the celestial country, and the second way is to use an empty space tunnel. People who have the strength of the Huang Qi layer and under can cross the celestial country, but great emperors have no choice but to use an empty space tunnel. Therefore, people rarely have news about the other regions, Holy Emperor Ling said calmly. He had lived for many years, and he had been to another region only once. Do cultivators practice cultivation the same way as we do in other regions? Lin Feng asked him. We can all reach the same goal by different routes. All roads lead to the capital. They are cultivators like us, but they have different methods. I've heard that in red clouds, people are incredible doctors. I've heard that in blue pale clouds, there are many terrifying sword cultivators. People practice cultivation differently depending on where they're from. Godly clouds is the central part of the continent of the 9 clouds, and it's also the strongest region. All the schools of thought contend there. Many geniuses like you, who have the potential to become peerless cultivators, want to go there to see the strongest geniuses of the world. What is that meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds? Where is it and who can go? Asked Lin Feng. He had heard of the regions of the continent of the 9 clouds. 9 regions, 1 in the middle, 8 around it. Godly clouds was the only region which had a border with the other 8 regions. The other 8 regions only had 3 borders with other regions, and they all shared a border with godly clouds. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds takes place every 100 years. The shrines organize it. This time, I think Destiny Shrine is in charge of the next one. The different shrines handle the event once every 1,000 years. This time, it's Destiny Shrine's turn again. I wonder who will be fortunate this time, said Holy Emperor Ling. When Lin Feng heard that, his heart started pounding. So does that mean the Destiny Shrine will recruit people? Asked Ho Qing Lin, also remembering the Destiny Shrine, unable to restrain himself. Indeed, the Destiny Shrine will recruit people. The lucky ones will reach the apex in terms of power. A shrine, replied Holy Emperor Ling. The shrines recruited people based on 2 kinds of circumstances. When they attached importance to someone they bumped into, mostly people who had king-type bodies, or people who proved they were strong during the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Therefore, people who came from shrines were all terrifyingly strong, and it was extremely beneficial for their families, like the He clan from Tianyuan ancient city. They had some disciples in the Destiny Shrine. Because Godly Clouds was a region well connected to the shrines, many people wanted to go there. It was also why Godly Clouds was the strongest region. So the animal district raised those 13 young beast masters to enable them to go to godly clouds, murmured Lin Feng. Holy Emperor Ling nodded. Indeed, they want their young masters to go to the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. There are also ones who want to become the first master of our region, the Dark Night region. Wu Ju is an example, and that's why the Wu Ju Holy Palace wants Wu Ju to have children before leaving. If Wu Ju dies abroad, then they won't have any more descendants. When Lin Feng heard that, he smiled. Wu Ju really did want to have children with Yi Tianjiao. The fact made Lin Feng laugh. He had thought the other was joking. Anyway, the strongest cultivators of the continent of the 9 clouds were progressing quickly. They had to, for the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, and to be the foremost cultivators of the region too. Who would come back safe and sound though? Only the strongest cultivators. We don't have geniuses in the Holy Spirit dynasty. Lin Feng, don't miss this opportunity. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds is not just about being recruited as a disciple by a shrine, it's also an incredible opportunity to receive priceless treasures, Holy Emperor Ling told Lin Feng. Lin Feng was only one step away from reaching the top of the Huangqi layer. At that level, Lin Feng would become terrifyingly strong. Even though Lin Feng was still unable to dazzle at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, he had time to progress. Lin Feng muttered to himself irresolutely, saying nothing. He didn't want to miss the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, obviously. At that moment, Lin Feng looked over at Ho Qing Lin. They lowered their heads and remained silent. They looked unhappy. Second fellow disciple, third fellow disciple, Ruo Xie, Xingzhan, Ban Ruo, didn't you all come out just to practice cultivation? Lin Feng's eyes glittered. If they had just come out to practice, why would they stay in such a big group? Brother, has anything happened? Asked Lin Feng. Ho Qing Lin was stupefied. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. Then he looked at Holy Emperor Ling. Holy Emperor Ling smiled and said, I'm off. If you need me, please ask for me, all of you. The Holy Emperor left. Lin Feng was sure there was a problem now. Brother, what's going on? Asked Lin Feng again. Ho Qing Lin raised his head again, looked at Lin Feng, took a deep breath and said, Brother, we have news from Mu Chen. Mu Chen. Lin Feng's eyes glittered and he asked, Where is he? I didn't want to tell you at first, but since you want to leave for godly clouds, I have no choice but to tell you. When we left the small world back then, Mu Chen and Emperor Yu were connected by a thread of soul, and they had also exchanged jade talismans. Mu Chen's soul jade talisman is cracking, said Ho Qing Lin. Lin Feng's heart twitched and his face turned deathly pale. He clenched his fists. Is it broken? He asked. It's not. It's strange. It's all cracked, it looks like a spider web. But it's not broken. He must be in danger. And Emperor Yu has received some news from him through a thread of soul, said Ho Qing Lin. He looked extremely nervous as he ground his teeth. He continued. He told Emperor Yu that if he reincarnated, they'd still be like brothers. He also said that godly clouds would be his burial site, and that he had had a worthy life. He doesn't want his death to be avenged, and he asked Emperor Yu not to tell us about it. Mu Chen went to godly clouds. Lin Feng's face stiffened. In the Dark Night region, it would have been okay, but godly clouds was another story. How could they find him there? And from the message he had passed on, he had encountered a terrifying enemy. Otherwise, he would have never told them not to avenge his death. But why is his talisman only fissured and not broken? Yes, we don't know how, when or why Emperor Yu wanted to go and find him alone, but we stopped him, then we decided to go and look for him ourselves, and asked the university to look after him. Brother, how could you hide the truth from me? Shouted Lin Feng furiously. It was the first time he was angry at Ho Qing Lin. How could they want to go to godly clouds without him? Lin Feng, Shiju Lao Xian, and you have an agreement. Meng Qing is pregnant, we wanted to protect you. And if anything happens to us in godly clouds, at least you'll be able to avenge our deaths. After all, you are the most talented of all of us, sighed Ruo Xie. But since you also want to go to godly clouds, then we can go together. Lin Feng tried to calm down, but it was difficult. He said, Tiantai's disciples, all like brothers and sisters. Chapter 2087, Judgment Day City. The members of Tiantai remained silent for a few seconds and then nodded. Tiantai's disciples, all like brothers and sisters. Even if we find godly clouds, how will we find our brother? Asked Lin Feng. They had to find him quickly, but it was easier said than done. The ancestors of the university can help. They prepared some great imperial weapons for us, including some soul-locking bells. Emperor, you put Mu Chen's soul thread in the soul-locking bells. It can help us find him. Therefore, if we find godly clouds, we can find where he is. Of course, as long as Ho Qing Lin trailed off. Mu Chen wasn't dead yet, but his talisman was cracked. The matter should not be delayed. Let's get ready to leave, said Lin Feng. They had to rescue Mu Chen. Lin Feng revered his dear teacher Mu Chen. Alright, good. We have a map. The border city between godly clouds and the Dark Night region is Judgment Day City. It's also one of the 18 main cities of the region. It's on the edge of the region. We should go to Judgment Day City first, and then we'll use an empty space tunnel to travel to godly clouds. Judgment Day City was the most special town in the Dark Night region, due to its location as a border city with godly clouds. Some extremely strong cultivators sometimes used the empty space tunnel and went there. It was quite chaotic there sometimes. Sometimes extremely strong cultivators killed people to steal their treasures. Hence the name, Judgment Day City. I need to go and see my son first, said Lin Feng to Ho Qing Lin. Ho Qing Lin and the others were astonished. Child? Lin Feng smiled and said, you don't know yet, right? I have a son in the Holy Spirit dynasty too. His name is Lin Qiongsheng. Is it Meng Qing's dash? No. Lin Feng interrupted him and said, come with me. His friends followed him to a courtyard. Yi was playing with Lin Qiongsheng, and when the child saw those people, he was curious. Brothers, that's my wife, Tang Yuyu, said Lin Feng, pointing at Tang Yuyu. Ho Qing Lin and the others were astonished. They had all heard Tiantai talk about that battle when all the dynasties had surrounded Lin Feng back then. A beautiful woman had almost died in Lin Feng's arms, that had been Tang Yuyu. They hadn't thought Lin Feng would have a child with her. Qiongsheng, come, greet your uncles and aunts, said Lin Feng, grabbing Lin Qiongsheng's hand. The little boy looked at the crowd and said, uncles and aunties. Good little boy. He is already a Tian-level cultivator. Ho Qing Lin hugged Lin Qiongsheng and lifted him, smiling and saying, Lin Feng, that little boy is already much stronger than us back in the days. He's growing up in an adequate environment. Indeed. When he's older, we'll make him go through some hardships, said Lin Feng smiled. Cultivation couldn't be easy. Lin Feng, you should bring him to my tribe, but as a Tian-level cultivator, it's already a pity, said Tiantai looking at the child. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. Tiantai's tribe raised young people differently. They didn't let them break through too quickly. They suddenly became much stronger after many years. Yuyu, I'm going to godly clouds with my friends. Please stay here, Lin Feng said to Tang Yuyu. I'll come with you. The Holy Spirit dynasty will take care of Qiongsheng, Tang Yuyu said to Lin Feng. All right, you can stay in that world then, said Lin Feng, caressing Tang Yuyu's cheeks. She understood and nodded. How cool, said Tiantai. Everybody burst into laughter. Lin Feng turned around and punched Tiantai's shoulder. Lin Feng prepared some things for the trip. He also said goodbye to the Holy Spirit dynasty's cultivators. They weren't going to prevent you and him from leaving. As long as Lin Qiongsheng stayed with them, it was fine. Lin Feng and the others left for Judgment Day City. On the same day, 13 cultivators from the Animal Dynasty left as well. When the strong cultivators of the different dynasties saw them, they were startled. The 13 strong cultivators were going to try their luck abroad. These days, the Animal District had proved they were stable and extremely strong. Nobody would dare attack them. The 13 strong cultivators had to rise. In Wu Ju's holy palace, Wu Ju was lying in bed with a beautiful woman and said, wait for me, I'll come back. Yi Tianjiao looked at him furiously, wanting to kill him. Her lips bled. She still had mixed feelings. Wu Ju was a bastard, but he had managed to bring her back to have a child. I know you'll miss me, said Wu Ju smiling. He kissed her on the lips and said, I'll come back as a hero and we'll have a real wedding ceremony. You think I'll raise your child? Spatty Tianjiao icily. We've been together for a few days already, why act like that? Wait for me, I'll come back. Wu Ju caressed her cheeks and left. Then he rose up in the air and left. He looked confident and at ease. Yi Tianjiao's face was deathly pale. She was furious, that bastard. During those days, another group of strong cultivators, including Saint Tianhun, left. There were many people from different dynasties, including a lot of great emperors. They all had one goal, Judgment Day City. Every 100 years, Judgment Day City hosted many strong cultivators. It was a very ancient city. Every 100 years, the atmosphere became chaotic. The price to go to Godly Clouds was more expensive each time. The people who controlled the empty space tunnel kept increasing the price. Because of that, many people killed other people to steal their treasures to pay for the trip. Many strong cultivators from remote places went there and realized that they still didn't have enough precious items to pay for a trip, even though some of them took everything their family owned. Most grew desperate. Going to Godly Clouds wasn't easy. Apart from that, the economic competition was also fierce, but doing business in Judgment Day City was a flourishing activity since it was a border city. Besides, every 100 years, many people also realized, when arriving, that the tickets for the empty space tunnel were sold out, fully booked. However, some people who had bought them in advance sold them at terrifying prices. The people who controlled the empty space tunnel formed an alliance. 7 ancient holy clans had joined hands to control it, and had a great deal of power in Judgment Day City. Nobody dared attack them, so they were very rich. Otherwise, people would have destroyed them. They owned such a terrifyingly profitable business. At that moment, outside of the station, Lin Feng and the others asked some people about how to go to Godly Clouds. They were stunned. They learned that special boats were required to use the empty space tunnel, and they were extremely rare. Only one boat left every 3 months, and a boat could only accommodate 100 people. It was far from enough. Therefore, people were sometimes here for years before going to Godly Clouds. Now, even though they were near Godly Clouds, it would be difficult for them to get tickets, especially since it was a peak period. What bastards! There aren't any tickets left for the boat in 3 months, and since you can buy tickets for a later date, because of them, we can't go to Godly Clouds, swore Tantai angrily. He was even wondering whether they were doing such a thing on purpose. It's normal. That way, if you really want to buy a ticket, you must buy it at 10 times the price, said Ho Ching Lin. He remained calm. They needed to find another way, and in any case, Ho Ching Lin would have bought tickets if possible and sold them at a much higher price. He would have been a good businessman. So should we wait for 3 months? Asked Tantai. You can't get a ticket even if you wait, you'll just wait in vain. You won't get a ticket, said Lin Feng. We need to find another way to get tickets. All right, let's go and see the auction house, said Ho Ching Lin. The group had heard that Doomsday Auction House was the biggest auction house of Judgment Day City. 3 tickets were sold there every day. Lin Feng and the others were furious. Who would wait for so long? There were more and more people every day in Judgment Day City, which meant that if you waited, it got more and more difficult to get a ticket. For example, on the first day, there were 1,000 people for 3 tickets. On the second day, there were 2,000 people for 3 tickets, and so on. How cruel! Apart from Doomsday Auction House, the other auction houses had even less tickets, 1 every day. Getting tickets wasn't easy at all. Chapter 2088, Auctions. The Doomsday Auction House was an imposing auction house. Nobody had the advantage there, everybody was treated equally. When Lin Feng and the others arrived, they were stunned and speechless. It was incredible, there were so many people. If someone obtained a precious treasure in front of everyone, wouldn't the strongest cultivators want to steal it from them? Lin Feng and the others didn't know what to think. At that moment, there were many people already. They had been waiting since the beginning. Lin Feng and the others joined the crowd and sat down high up in the bleachers. Since there were only 3 tickets every day, they wanted to obtain the first one at least. They couldn't waste time. Brother, you have the soul-locking bells, how's Muchen? Asked Lin Feng to Ho Ching Lin. He must be fine. We need to hurry, said Ho Ching Lin, nodding while inspecting the soul-locking bells. Yes, I'll sit elsewhere. We can't show everyone we know one another, it's safer, said Lin Feng. He stood up and went down the bleachers. After a short time, Lin Feng arrived at the front lines. He saw a row where only one woman was seated. Some people waved at Lin Feng and said, "Your Excellency, please go elsewhere." "Are there private rows in the auction house?" asked Lin Feng with a caustic smile, but he didn't insist. He just sat down in the third row. The auctions were going to start. That woman is protected by great emperors. She must be from an ancient clan, thought Lin Feng. He didn't mind though. He didn't need to. Ho Qing Lin and the others didn't show they knew Lin Feng. If Lin Feng got a ticket, it wouldn't be easy to find him. One person was more difficult to find than a group of people. More and more people arrived. The place was vast, but it was comparatively silent. Nobody talked, and when they did, they just whispered. Finally, some people from the auction house appeared at the same time. They carried all sorts of boxes and chests. They didn't put anything in rings. The manager was a middle-aged man. He had an imposing appearance and was a great emperor. "Same old rules, offer a good price. There is no base price," said the middle-aged man, showing off a box. Everybody heard him clearly. "We have to choose without seeing the item?" Lin Feng was stupefied. The Doomsday Auction House was strange. Someone next to Lin Feng whispered, "Doomsday Auction House's rules, you can't see the first 3 items, it's all luck." "What if it's a bad item?" asked Lin Feng. "Well then, you have no choice but to accept your fate," replied the person. Lin Feng was speechless. Then the person continued, "Of course, sometimes items are sold at a very low price and in the end were very precious, in which case many people regret not having bought it. Of course, the auctions are about luck too. You can't get all the items, there are so many people." Lin Feng understood. Only big auction houses could do such a thing because they constantly had many people. Maybe it was good, maybe not. So the first 3 items always belong to the Doomsday Auction House? Wrong. All the items belong to them. If you want to sell your things here, you can't. If you want to sell something here, they buy it from you at a price which corresponds to your expectations and their calculations, and then when it's theirs, they sell it. Of course, if your item is incredible, the Doomsday Auction House will be fair. The price at which they sell items you sold them has nothing to do with you anymore, even if they get an incredible price for it. Interesting. Lin Feng smiled. Many people started shouting prices. They didn't know what the item was, so nobody proposed a terrifying price. Most people were proposing imperial weapons or ordinary scriptures, and sometimes some strange things. Great imperial scriptures, rotten hell ocean, rotting strength. It makes people's blood rot instantly. It's perfect for people who control death cosmic energies, said Lin Feng calmly at that moment. Instantly, many people looked at him. Great imperial scriptures? And it was a very rare book. For an unknown item, it was a bit too much. The middle-aged man on stage looked at Lin Feng and smiled indifferently. Anyone else? Nobody said anything. Rare great imperial scriptures were already too much. All right, congratulations, you obtained the first item. When the third item is sold, you can come and pick up your item, said the middle-aged man, nodding calmly. He took out a second box and lifted it without saying anything. He had nothing to say, so he remained silent. It seemed even more mysterious. Yellow Spirit's great imperial scriptures, they teach you how to condense yellow springs in your fingers and kill people. It makes them fall into the yellow springs, said Lin Feng again. The crowd frowned. An eerie silence took over. However, at that moment, Lin Feng looked calm and serene as if he hadn't been proposing great imperial scriptures. Lin Feng had spent much time in the celestial country and had killed so many people, obtaining many ancient scriptures. All the books he had obtained were perfect for people who controlled death strength. He had obtained so many great imperial scriptures from hell. He had lots of books and all of them were precious. Why not exchange them if he didn't need them? Nobody tried to get the second item. When the man took out the third box, and Lin Feng proposed another great imperial scripture from hell, everyone was staring at him. That guy had so many ancient scriptures. He had just decided to exchange 3 great imperial scriptures against 3 unknown items. For Lin Feng, it didn't matter. He didn't care about those great imperial scriptures. He hoped he'd get something great, though. "Your Excellency, please come and get your items," said the middle-aged man, nodding at Lin Feng. Lin Feng rose up in the air. However, at that moment, people in front of him suddenly turned around and shouted furiously, "How insolent! Get down to go out." If Lin Feng wanted to fly, he had to fly above that woman's head. He glanced at them unhappily. They had prevented him from sitting where he wanted, and now they didn't want to let him fly. What was wrong with them? Who was being insolent? Lin Feng ignored them and continued flying forwards. He looked at the woman and said, "Miss." The woman looked wealthy and noble. She just waved at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had just obtained 3 precious treasures, but she didn't even look at him. Lin Feng exchanged his scriptures against the 3 items, then he looked at the woman and said, "You want me to fly or walk?" "Sit here," said the woman, pointing at the seat next to her and smiling. Lin Feng was surprised and nodded. "If they hadn't stopped me, I would have sat here with you earlier." He calmly sat down next to her. Her guards looked at him icily. The middle-aged man of the auction house looked at Lin Feng in a strange way, but quickly returned to normal and smiled. "All right, the next item is a great imperial talisman. It doesn't contain a deployment spell anymore, but there are still traces inside. Powerful deployment spellcasters can benefit from it because it'll be easier to carve great imperial deployment spells on it, and you can use it several times. Please bid." Lin Feng's heart twitched. He had carved many deployment talismans before coming to Judgment Day City. He hadn't thought he'd see a great imperial talisman here. He really wanted to obtain it. Great imperial scriptures, huge vigorous lion chi, extremely powerful, increases a cultivator's strength, gives a cultivator the power of a great imperial beast. One roar can crush a cultivator's heart, said the woman next to Lin Feng calmly. She immediately proposed great imperial scriptures. Chapter 2089. Immortal body. Most people didn't bid when they heard the woman. It was just a great imperial talisman, only deployment spellcasters could benefit from it. The price was already too high for them. However, it was a priceless item for strong deployment spellcasters. As it contained deployment spell traces, it was very helpful for an army, as it could also be used as a body protection deployment spell. It was a priceless treasure. Great imperial scriptures, indestructible mountains and rivers like body imprints technique, perfect for gold cultivators. It allows a cultivator to have an indestructible golden body. "It's powerful," spoke up an old man calmly. The crowd looked at him, a great emperor wearing an ordinary gray robe. He looked like a deployment spellcaster, actually. "I'll add a level 2 great imperial weapon," said the woman calmly, without turning around. She was from a powerful deployment spellcaster family. She had come precisely to find items related to deployment spells. The old man frowned when he heard the woman and said, "I'll also add a level 2 great imperial weapon." Great imperial weapons and imperial weapons were divided into 9 levels. Great imperial weapons were much more difficult to make than imperial weapons, however. "I'll add a level 3 great imperial weapon," said the woman calmly. The great emperor was stupefied. A level 3 great imperial weapon? Level 3 great imperial weapons were priceless. Even level 4 great imperial weapons were strong enough to fight against celestial emperors. He couldn't trade any, he had only one and it was too important to him. "She's from a rich family, she can afford it," whispered the crowd. The old man sighed. Even though he was from a good family, he was old, his clan didn't spend resources on him anymore. Powerful groups spent time and resources on young people. Old people had to rely on themselves. The price was too high. It seemed nobody wanted to get the item for such a price. Great imperial scriptures, mountain and river illusion. When you practice it, 1,000,000 illusionary clones appear, but they look real. You can trick the enemy. It's from the ancient Jade dynasty in Chitian Holy Town. Besides, I'll also add some more great imperial scriptures. The 7 deep abstruse Dao technique, you can attack 7 times with it, the attacks are powerful. It is also from the ancient Jade dynasty, but it is a little bit less powerful than the great deep abstruse Dao. Lin Feng spoke up evenly at that moment. Everybody was astonished. This guy was wealthy. That guy has so many rare great imperial scriptures. He even has great imperial scriptures from the ancient Jade dynasty? Was he from the ancient Jade dynasty? But the ancient Jade dynasty only recruits women. People whispered curiously. The woman next to Lin Feng looked at him, her beautiful eyes glittered. She smiled indifferently. For ordinary people, that talisman is useless. Why do you want it? The woman thought Lin Feng was trying to provoke her. He was very young, he couldn't be an incredible deployment spellcaster. Why did he want that talisman? Lin Feng looked at her, he knew she thought he was trying to provoke her. He didn't have time to waste doing such things though, so he didn't explain anything, he just smiled thinly without saying anything. The woman looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Since you like it, you can have it. You won't have it easy though. She stopped bidding and nobody else rose to contest him. Lin Feng obtained the talisman. He gave the 2 books from the ancient Jade dynasty in exchange. If the members of the ancient Jade dynasty had known about that, they would have been furious. After that, more treasures were traded, great imperial scriptures, great imperial weapons, pellets. Some people also sold items they had to other people in the crowd directly. Lin Feng had many great imperial scriptures, but he didn't need all of them, so he could sell them to other people. Many people were there only for ship tickets. Lin Feng didn't participate in the auctions for a few rounds, and finally the first ticket appeared. It was for the boat a month from now. Lin Feng gave up, he couldn't wait for 1 month. When he saw the price for which it was sold, he was astonished. Many strong cultivators had come for the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Finally, the first ticket was exchanged against some powerful great imperial scriptures and a level 4 great imperial weapon. It was very expensive. In normal times, a ship ticket could be sold for 1 level 1 great imperial weapon or some powerful great imperial scriptures, especially for a boat which was a month from now. The second ticket was for 15 days from now. Lin Feng's heart twitched. How could he obtain more tickets? He didn't know, so he had to get that one. Not everyone would be able to get tickets, so how could they do it? Use their spirits? Lin Feng really needed that 1 ticket. Many people wanted it. Many of them were great emperors, even some celestial emperors tried to bid. Obtaining 1 ticket was extremely complicated. Very quickly, the price of the second ticket exceeded that of the first one. Someone proposed a level 5 great imperial weapon. For a great emperor, that was a terrifying price. With such a weapon, they could pose a threat to a celestial emperor. Ancient holy scriptures from the ancient Jade dynasty, great deep abstruse Tao, for 2 tickets, said Lin Feng at that moment. Everybody suddenly became silent. He was trying to exchange ancient holy scriptures against ship tickets? On top of that from the ancient Jade dynasty? The great deep abstruse Tao? How crazy! If the ancient Jade dynasty knew about it, they would have tried to kill him instantly. Of course, Lin Feng didn't mind. The ancient Jade dynasty already wanted to kill him. The middle-aged man stared at Lin Feng and said indifferently, "It's against the rules, you can only get that one first." "What's the date of the second ticket?" asked Lin Feng. "Which one do you want to buy?" asked the middle-aged man. "If you can't tell me the details, I'll just cancel my offer and leave. I'm sure anyone else would be happy to obtain the ancient Jade dynasty's ancient holy scriptures against a ship ticket," said Lin Feng calmly. The middle-aged man remained silent. "How cunning! All right, I'll tell you now. The next one is for this month, 13th day. It's in 5 days. Will you give me the next ticket for the great deep abstruse Tao?" asked Lin Feng calmly. The 2 other tickets' date was too far away in time. Lin Feng needed to leave as soon as possible. "Anyone else for that ticket then?" asked the middle-aged man glancing around. However, only people from terrifyingly powerful clans had ancient holy scriptures, and they didn't want to exchange them. Ancient scriptures were no problem, but not ancient holy scriptures. Their families wouldn't agree with that at all. Besides, Lin Feng wanted the second ticket. He couldn't possibly exchange ancient holy scriptures for the previous one. "All right, it's a deal," said the middle-aged man smiling indifferently. A ship ticket against ancient holy scriptures, that was a very profitable deal for the auction house. "I hope you didn't make a mistake," said the middle-aged man calmly. That person was trading the ancient Jade Dynasty's ancient holy scriptures against ship tickets. He probably had an extremely high social status. I hope you will be able to benefit from the ancient holy scriptures, Lin Feng smiled. If the ancient Jade Dynasty learned about this, they might put pressure on the Doomsday Auction House, depending on their backing? Don't worry about that, replied the middle-aged man without talking too much, and went back to the second ticket. The woman next to Lin Feng looked at him and said, "The Doomsday Auction House doesn't protect people who buy here, you're pretty audacious." An emperor was taking out ancient holy scriptures in the open? Lin Feng's ticket was for 5 days from now, and many people were now paying attention to him. He was pretty brave. Many people were already staring at him. However, he already knew things were going to happen that way, so he preferred doing it anyways. The second ticket was finally sold for a level 6 Great Imperial weapon. Lin Feng started thinking that the alliance who controlled the boat company probably cooperated with the auction house. It was logical, it was the best way for them to benefit and rip people off. Then the man took out a black box. It was pitch black, as if a terrifying strength had been sealed inside. The middle-aged man said to the crowd with a smile, "It's the last item, an immortal body." Chapter 2090. Who's stupid? An immortal body? The crowd was shocked. Emperors' bodies could remain intact for many years, and great emperors' bodies, when intact, never decomposed. Those were normal bodies, but what the Doomsday Auction House was proposing seemed like an extraordinary cultivator. The crowd looked at the long box. The middle-aged man put it on the ground with the greatest care. A few ancient imprints appeared and the gigantic box slowly opened itself. The crowd saw the body within. It had no chi, it just looked intact. "What kind of body is that?" asked someone. Lin Feng was curious too. He had the saint's feet and he had sensed a terrifying strength emerge from them. However, that body just looked like an ordinary corpse. What a strange corpse. It was the first time that the woman next to Lin Feng sounded surprised. She whispered, "It has no chi at all, it's like an ordinary body, but it's immortal. What kind of cultivation level did that person have?" Everybody was thinking the same. This body has been checked, he was over 100,000 years old or more. It's completely intact. It was a strong cultivator in the ancient times. However, it has no chi at all, like an ordinary person, said the middle-aged man when he saw everybody was curious. 100,000 years old or more. "Of course, if you don't believe me, I can show you," said the middle-aged man smiling. An ice-cold blade appeared. It contained gloomy chi. Everybody sensed it clearly. The middle-aged man's hand streaked across the sky. People were all startled. What a terrifying blade. It's a level 4 or more great imperial weapon. A terrifying strength attacked the immortal body. The crowd's face stiffened. There was a metallic clank, and everybody was astonished because the blade didn't do anything to the corpse. This blade is extremely powerful, as everyone has seen, but nothing works on it. "According to our quality testers, it might be a saint's body," said the middle-aged man indifferently. The crowd burst into an uproar. Others remained silent. A saint's body in an auction house? Maybe that you doubt about my words, but I can tell everyone that that body has no chi and doesn't deteriorate. It's a terrifying physical body. Even though we think it's a saint, we can't do much with it. We tried to modify it, but we can't. That's why we're selling it. Of course, if the price isn't high enough, we won't sell it either, said the middle-aged calmly. The Doomsday Auction House was different from other auction houses. If they weren't happy with the price, they kept the items. "If you can't use it, why could we?" said someone who didn't intend to bid. "Why don't you tell us a base price then?" asked someone else. The middle-aged man shook his head and smiled. "If you want to bid, just bid, otherwise don't bid." If they proposed a base price, people wouldn't take any initiative. Lin Feng shook his head. He wasn't interested in a body he didn't understand, but at that moment, his expression slightly changed. Something was telling him he had to obtain that body. It was an indescribable feeling, as if he were possessed. Lin Feng was suddenly excited. A level 2 Great Imperial Scripture and 1 tome of Great Imperial Scriptures. "What do you think, Your Excellency?" asked Lin Feng. The middle-aged man just smiled and said nothing. Lin Feng's price wasn't enough. A level 4 great imperial weapon for the body, proposed a strong cultivator indifferently. Level 5 armor, said the woman next to Lin Feng calmly. She looked interested now. Many people were surprised. A level 5 great imperial item, even defensive, was expensive. She was definitely rich. The woman ground her teeth too. She had proposed a high price. She only had one item like that, but a great imperial item couldn't be compared with a saint's body. If she managed to understand it, she'd probably become extremely powerful. She would be able to inspect it back in her clan. Since you don't want to buy that weapon in front of everybody, I'll tell you something personally, said Lin Feng indifferently. He talked to the middle-aged man indifferently. The man was astonished and frowned. People were surprised. What had Lin Feng proposed? More ancient holy scriptures? Deal, said the middle-aged man without hesitating. Lin Feng smiled and stood up. His silhouette flickered. He jumped onto the stage, said something to the man using his godly awareness, and took the immortal body. Who's that guy? He bought so many things, exclaimed quite a few people. The woman next to Lin Feng was stupefied. She realized that this young man who hadn't even reached the top of the Huangqi layer had so many things. She found herself curious. Some clans loved ancient scriptures. That wasn't surprising, especially scholars since they had studied at university. However, this Lin Feng seemed stupid. He had shown too much. Did he think he'd manage to leave safely? So many people were staring at him. When Lin Feng came back, the woman stood up and said to Lin Feng, "When you leave, many people will surround you. The Doomsday Auction House won't help you. They're not responsible for you. Give me the talisman and I'll help you. Otherwise, you will die before being able to go to godly clouds." "Thank you for proposing your help," replied Lin Feng indifferently. The woman frowned and asked, "Why? That talisman is useless for you. I'm a deployment spellcaster. I really need it." "Miss, if you need," said someone next to her at that moment, releasing icy energies. "My ticket is for the boat in 5 days as well. That's why I want to help you." "I hope you understand," said the woman to Lin Feng. "Thank you very much, you're too kind," said Lin Feng, nodding to her, and then he ran into the crowd. Many people released chi around Lin Feng. He frowned and accelerated. When the woman saw Lin Feng, she frowned and stared at him. "Miss," the woman remained silent for a few seconds and shook her head. "He's just stupid. Forget about it." Lin Feng was in the middle of the crowd and suddenly a strong wind brushed against him. Many people grunted icily. Many people were propelled away. Some people staggered. The atmosphere suddenly became chaotic. "Insolent!" shouted a strong cultivator furiously, before punching out. However, at that moment, the strong wind moved towards the clouds. Many people chased him, but after a short time the wind disappeared. Lin Feng appeared and turned around, looking back at the crowd. "You think you can just leave?" said an old man in gray clothes. He was the one who had wanted the talisman. "Give me the item. You're just an emperor. You're acting recklessly. I wonder where that moron studies." The crowd had just left the Doomsday Auction House and they were all baring their fangs. They were fearless and didn't even try to hide their desire to steal his treasures. "I haven't seen someone so ridiculous in a long time," said a young man with his arms crossed before his chest. Great emperors were at his sides protecting him. Lin Feng didn't continue running. He just stood there and said nothing. He smiled mockingly. "A bunch of morons." People's expressions slightly changed. One of them realized something and punched at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't dodge. There was a rumble and explosion. The body exploded and disappeared. When they thought about his mocking smile a moment ago, they all pulled long faces. Who was a moron? It was just a clone. Lin Feng had already left. But why hadn't they been able to follow him with their godly awareness? Chapter 2091. Another saint's body, he's gone. The woman was also stupefied when she arrived. She smiled thinly. No wonder he dared act so insolently. He had a way to escape. As Lin Feng had moved through the wind, he had actually changed his mask and clothes. When the crowd penetrated into the wind, he left the strong wind, and that wind had moved forwards, taking his clones along. At that moment, Lin Feng was back with Ho Qing Lin and the others. They were calmly watching the scene. "Let's go," said Lin Feng, and they got up to leave. "Brothers, we are many people. Even if we get as many tickets, we also need to get tickets for the same day, and that will be very difficult. We'll need too much time," Lin Feng said to Ho Qing Lin. After all, they couldn't get many tickets for the ship, which was 5 days later. There were many auction houses, but for a dozen people, it would still be difficult to get so many tickets. "So what do you want to do?" asked Ho Qing Lin to Lin Feng. "I can bring everyone along, but the problem is you won't be able to enjoy and learn from the empty space tunnel," explained Lin Feng. "Learning from the empty space tunnel is less important than gaining time to find Muqin. When we come back from godly clouds, we'll all be able to learn from it," replied Ho Qing Lin. Lin Feng nodded and said, "All right. In 5 days we will go to godly clouds. Let's relax for the next few days. Don't offend anyone. When we come back, we'll enjoy ourselves a bit here." Everybody understood. They were in a rush. Muqin used to be a friend and a teacher, so if Lin Feng could take them along for free, it was the best solution. Everybody cared about Muqin greatly. As Lin Feng had said, the best thing to do was not to offend anyone and relax for a few days. Lin Feng found a tranquil place and took out his new talisman. He opened the talisman and a beam of light emerged from it. Lin Feng put his godly awareness inside and sensed some deployment spell essence. This kind of talisman was perfect for carving deployment spells. "Even though I am strong in comparison to people of the same cultivation level, I can't compete with great emperors. If I carve some great deployment spells inside this talisman, I will be able to use it if I face a great danger. That way, I won't need to use the saint's body," he said to himself. He extended his hand out and condensed all sorts of cosmic energies. At the same time, his heavenly grace godly would appeared indistinctly behind his body, a hurricane made of cosmic energies gathering around it. Then, those cosmic energies condensed down into his finger. He couldn't use such powerful cosmic energies on an ordinary talisman, or it would break. Lin Feng started carving on the great imperial talisman. Cosmic strength spread around him. Lin Feng hadn't carved deployment spells this seriously for a long time and was extremely focused. The deployment marks were being carved with single-hearted devotion and without distracting thoughts, glittering as they formed. After a long time, Lin Feng finished carving the deployment marks and put his talisman away. He was happy and smiled. He took out the 3 boxes he had obtained without knowing what they were. 2 ordinary great imperial weapons and an imperial weapon I lost. Lin Feng smiled. He didn't mind. The ancient scriptures he had traded weren't useful to him. As long as he had the ship ticket, he was satisfied. After that, Lin Feng went into his spirit's world. The saint's body was there, dead and inert. No qi emerged from it. Lin Feng walked over to Qin Shan and put his soul strength into Qin Shan's brain. After a short time, Lin Feng's soul arrived in front of a dazzling light. Qin Shan was awake already, but he hadn't recovered. He still needed godly medicine to recover. "Master, can you help me check that body?" asked Lin Feng to the saint. "Saint's body," declared Qin Shan. Lin Feng shivered. It was really a saint's body. Why didn't it have qi though? Even the strong cultivators of the Doomsday Auction House couldn't use it, so they had sold it. "Make it fuse together with my consciousness and I'll see whether it still has a thread of consciousness or not," said Qin Shan. Lin Feng fused his soul together with the saint's consciousness. Qin Shan walked over to the saint and his eyes twinkled. Dazzling lights emerged from the Qin Shan's eyes and penetrated into the saint's body. However, Lin Feng saw no consciousness at all, as if the saint was really dead. Lin Feng and Qin Shan's consciousness flew throughout that body. They realized that some kind of strength was blocking them, as they couldn't explore the saint's body thoroughly. Qin Shan used more of his will to pierce through the strength and penetrate into the body thoroughly. Lin Feng saw a golden empty space world within, but it seemed broken. A terrifying strength flowed towards them from the body. Qin Shan sensed a terrible power collide with his own. Golden lights bombarded his body with a crash and explosion of force. The saint was propelled away 1,000 meters and crashed onto the ground. He recalled his consciousness. Lin Feng was astonished. That body which hadn't moved for a very long time had attacked Qin Shan. "What's that?" A voice resonated inside Qin Shan's body and made him shake. "Master, his body, that's..." Lin Feng was shaking. "Even though it's golden, it doesn't have any cosmic energy inside. It's as if his own strength has been broken, a golden empty space, a broken world. It's definitely a saint, but something catastrophic must have happened to him." Lin Feng and Qin Shan's consciousness had fused together. They could communicate directly without speaking. But he attacked our power? For him, everybody else is a nobody, an insignificant tiny little insect. "He despises heaven and earth," murmured Qin Shan. He was a saint too, but he had never seen such a saint's body. "That obstructive strength is formidable, it could destroy my consciousness. However, why could my consciousness pierce through the obstructive energy and penetrate into his body?" wondered Qin Shan, seemingly talking to himself. "Master," said Lin Feng at that moment. My soul can get into it," whispered Lin Feng. Qin Shan remained silent for a few seconds. If he had a real body, it would have been perfect. "I'll transmit an ancient technique to you, try and control that body," said Qin Shan after remaining silent for a few seconds. He relayed an ancient technique to Lin Feng, and their minds separated. Lin Feng recalled his soul strength and studied the ancient technique. After a short time, he opened his eyes with a glitter. He stared at the saint's body as his soul came out of his body and moved into the saint's body. He inspected that broken golden world, with neither strength nor qi in it. Lin Feng had the impression that he was back in hell. It was the same kind of feeling. After a long time, the body finally moved and opened his eyes. "It works." Lin Feng was stupefied. It was starting to work. Then Lin Feng moved his arm and then his legs. After a very long time, the body stood up. "Master!" Lin Feng took a deep breath. He was moving. Could he really control this body? "Don't get too excited. You've just started. It's a dead body, you can control it, but because it's a saint's body, it's not that easy either, as you can't use a saint's strength. In that body, there is absolutely no thread of consciousness. So you can use the body, but regarding the strength you can deploy with it, I guess it depends on how familiar you are with it," Qin Shan said to Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded and said, "I understand. It's a dead body. I can control it, but it has no strength. But this body, as a shell, is quite powerful. I'll do all I can to practice the ancient technique you transmitted to me." Then, Lin Feng started walking around with a body that wasn't his own. At Lin Feng's cultivation level, his soul could easily move away from his body. Controlling a dead body wasn't difficult. The real difficulty was in controlling a dead saint's body. Even thought it was just a shell, not everyone could easily defeat such a body. Chapter 2092. Deadly tunnel. Time passed quickly without Lin Feng realizing it. He still hadn't managed to control the saint's body, but it was time to go to the empty space tunnel. The tunnel was a golden gate. It contained a deadly golden wind, strong enough to easily defeat a cultivator. Nature's strength could be dreadful sometimes, especially in the empty space tunnels which connected the different parts of the continent. A ship had stopped at the gateway. It looked like a gigantic and terrifying warship and seemed to be made of pure gold. That kind of empty space ship can easily cross the empty space tunnel. It's not actually made of gold. Powerful cultivators make them using cosmic energies. There are dangerous marks on it and Tao essence. Lin Feng shivered when he saw the ship, wondering at the cost. Even though the ship was gigantic, there weren't many seats in it, because most of the ship components were there for defensive purposes to cross the empty space tunnels. It was said that saints could cross the tunnels relying on their own strength. Great emperors, however, could not. The alliance who controlled the empty space tunnels was very strict when it came to migration flows. There were many strong cultivators at the entrance who checked everyone. There was even a terrifying cultivator in charge of the team. They had to guarantee proper operation of the ships or their business could crash. There were many people there today. They were walking up the flight of stairs which led to the ship. Lin Feng gave his ticket to the guards and entered the ship. There were many people already present. The crew made full use of the ship. It was packed with 100 people, the maximum number of people who could be accommodated. The ship was surrounded by a curtain of dazzling lights, but one could still see the landscape outside. In the distance was the deadly golden wind. Lin Feng couldn't imagine what would happen if someone went into it. He remembered back when in the small world when he had fallen into fissures and had ended up in the terrifying passage. The empty space tunnel was even scarier. "It's you," said someone. Lin Feng turned around and saw the woman he had seen the other day at the auction house. Lin Feng smiled indifferently and answered, "It's me." The woman smiled too and looked him over. "You're strong. You used a special method to escape." Lin Feng shrugged, but didn't say much. He just sat down. He only wanted to get to godly clouds. Finally, the 100 ticket holders had arrived and the gigantic ship started moving. It was still surrounded by formidable golden lights, and a very powerful cultivator was driving the ship. When the ship left, there was a boom of imploding air, and then the ship disappeared into the distance. What a terrifying speed. "Are we traveling through time?" thought Lin Feng, gasping with amazement. The landscape through the windows was incredible. It was like a golden ocean. Suddenly, some people fell down as an incredible gravitational pressure slammed down on Lin Feng. He had the impression his body was going to be crushed. The air was vibrating from the pressure. What kind of strength is this? Wondered Lin Feng. He had the impression he was going to suffocate. The air felt too heavy to breathe. The vibration in the air was making his blood bubble. Lin Feng was shocked and sat down carefully again. What kind of strength was this? Something rang in the air. The terrifying strength kept pressing down on the crowd. Many people coughed up blood. Lin Feng groaned with pain. The golden strength was too brutal. "Miss, the turbulences are terrifying today," one of her guards said to the woman, pulling a long face. "It happens sometimes." "I hope it'll get better later," she murmured back. She looked at Lin Feng and said, "Is this the first time you've taken the empty space tunnel?" Lin Feng nodded. The most terrifying kinds of strength of the earth and sky are condensed inside the empty space tunnel. Only saints can cross it freely. Sometimes, the strength in the empty space tunnel has the power of a saint. The ship is hard, but it can't stop all the threads of strength. If the strength in the tunnel is too powerful, then it spreads to the passengers. The ship can't take all the damage. "Some people can die," said the woman. Lin Feng nodded. He hadn't thought it would be like this. "Therefore, you have to be at least a high-level emperor to take it. Weaker people will get crushed instantly." Lin Feng nodded again. He looked at the beautiful golden landscape passing by on both sides of the ship. He couldn't imagine how fast they were traveling. He had the impression they were traveling sideways through time. The strength wasn't destructive, it was oppressive and made Lin Feng's blood boil. Some time passed, people's faces stayed red. The atmosphere was so still, it was almost scary. Everybody remained silent. Time seemed to be passing very slowly. Even after a very long time, everybody still felt uncomfortable. Suddenly, the atmosphere became dark. People's faces changed drastically. Some of the passengers turned deathly pale, like sheets of paper. "Oh no! Deadly tunnel. How can we cross the deadly tunnel?" "Deadly tunnel?" Lin Feng didn't understand and looked at the dark hurricane outside. The atmosphere became even more oppressive. The strong cultivator who was outside leading the ship came into the ship, a grimace on his face. "Master?" the woman asked the strong cultivator. Her face turned deathly pale. She had come to the Dark Night region because she had heard that a collection of great deployment spells illustrative plates had been sold to the Doomsday auction house. Her clan had sent her there hoping she could buy it. However, they hadn't thought she'd run into a dark death tunnel. Nobody can predict a death tunnel. "I hope it won't be too scary, otherwise, the ship will not be able to endure it and we will all die." "That would be horrible, especially since we're almost there," said the strong cultivator glumly. "Everybody release your strength. Rely on yourselves to survive." Then, the man closed his eyes, looking ready to do battle. Nobody knew how strong the destructive death tunnel strength would be. Were they going to be lucky or not? Lin Feng pulled a long face. The captain looked extremely strong, but at that moment he was talking in a grave and solemn way, which meant the situation was really dangerous. Demon and Earth Tao strength surrounded his body. Everybody was releasing energies to protect themselves at that moment. Nobody could care about others. When the strength collided with the ship, it shook violently. Some people's defensive energies crackled. Was this their judgment day? Lin Feng kept releasing life cosmic energies. There. Lin Feng saw the woman. Dazzling lights were surrounding her and her people. Lin Feng suddenly jumped forwards as the ship shook even more violently. Many people could barely stand steadily. A terrifying strength streaked across the sky again. Lin Feng ran towards the woman and took her in his arms. She frowned darkly, but did nothing. She couldn't take care of herself, so she couldn't take care of anything else. Lin Feng lost consciousness. Godly clouds, Fengzhou City, exit of the empty space tunnel. The waiting crowd saw a ship come out. When they saw all those people lying down on the ship, they were astonished. They had probably run into a death tunnel. Many people are dead or injured. Someone's eyes twinkled. He got closer. There were many corpses on the ship. Since they were dead already, their items weren't theirs anymore. Move away, ordered someone icily. A group of strong cultivators arrived in front of the ship. Miss is there, said someone. The group of strong cultivators all grimaced. Surprisingly, so many people were dead. She still has chi. Someone slowly walked up to her. A young man was holding her in his arms. When the crowd saw that, they looked at him icily, especially the young men around. Chapter 2093, Qingshan City, does anyone know him? Asked that strong cultivator. Everybody shook their heads. They looked furious. Uncle, should we kill him? Asked someone. Their leader muttered to himself irresolutely and said, We don't know if he knows Miss Yi, let's bring him back. All right. The crowd nodded and started picking up things from the ship. The captain of the ship and some great emperors started waking up. The others were either dead or injured. Lin Feng was lucky. He was injured, but not dead due to his incredibly powerful soul and body. Godly Clouds was in the very center of the continent of the 9 clouds. It had a border with the 8 other regions of the continent. It was also the widest and strongest region. All sorts of cultivators gathered there. Their battles were magnificent and explosive. Great scholars, doctors, deployment spellcasters, and people who had special powers dwelled there. In the central part of Godly Clouds were many powerful cities. They all had their own rules. Some of them had holy clans, some of them had universities, some of them had sects, some of them were like hell, where a central government ruled over the city. In Qingshan City, ancient families were extremely powerful, or in other words, were ancient clans. 2 families were particularly strong, the Jing clan and the Yu clan. They were both families of deployment spellcasters, and extremely powerful. The Jing clan was gaining strength, especially their young people. They seemed stronger than the Yu clan. However, recently, a scandal had struck the Jing clan, as one of their descendants, Jing Xiaoyu, had fallen in love with someone she shouldn't have. Many people still talked about it. The Jing clan could go and kill him, but Jing Xiaoyu threatened to kill herself if they did. That scandal spread all around Qingshan City. Everybody was talking about it. Some people had compassion for Jing Xiaoyu. In the cultivation world, few people ever knew what real love was. She had found someone she loved, but unfortunately, he was already hundreds of years old, and even though he was strong, his potential had limits and the Jing clan didn't want her to get married to such a person. In a dark tower of the Jing clan, a man was chained up, screws stuck into him, looking extremely weak. 2 flames kept flickering as he suffered from unspeakable pains. Someone came to him and smiled evilly. If you tell Xiaoyu you deceived her on a stage in front of everyone, you'll be freed. The man raised his head and smiled at him mockingly, replying icily, Hundreds of years passed and I thought I'd never find love again. However, I met Xiaoyu. Even if you kill me, I will never say that. My disciples will help avenge me if you kill me. My fellow disciple is with them. If I can't be with her in a relationship, then you can just kill me. He smiled broadly. You want to die? His torturers smiled pitilessly. Since you don't agree, you'll stay here forever and suffer unbearably. Xiao Yu doesn't know we captured you. She will slowly forget about you, find someone else and fall in love with them. We set a date. If she doesn't see me on that day, she'll know the truth. She knows I would never abandon her, said the man indifferently. You're wrong. We've already told her that you wanted to use her to join the Jing clan. If you don't show up, she'll know you just wanted to deceive her, said that person emotionlessly, and then he disappeared down a dark corridor, following the faint torches on the walls. The man sighed. He remembered back then when he had fallen in love. He remembered they were incredible cultivators in his world. Then, he had joined hands with his friends to leave that sealed world to come to the great world, which had always been a dream of theirs, and now he was in such a situation because of love. Since he was imprisoned, he thought about his disciples all the time. Some of them had already become high-level emperors. He was convinced that some of them would become terrifying cultivators someday. He had met Xiao Yu by a lucky coincidence. She was so similar to the woman he had loved. He had noticed some things were different, but it hadn't prevented him from loving her. However, the cultivation world was cruel. If you weren't strong enough, it could be a nightmare. High-level emperors were incredible cultivators in their previous world, but in this new world, they were extremely weak. In a room in the Yu clan, Lin Feng opened his eyes. He was still in pain. I'm still alive, thought Lin Feng, taking a deep breath. That strength in the tunnel was too terrifying, even a great emperor could have died in there. He remembered thinking he was going to die. He struggled to stand up, it was so painful. His body and soul were both sore. He had the impression his body weighed hundreds of kilos, or as if his body wasn't his own anymore. He wondered. He realized some of his rings had disappeared. Even though he had put the most important things in his spirit's world, he still used rings, and had hidden many things in them. Someone had stolen his rings. He slowly finished standing up and walked up to the door. He opened it and saw a courtyard beyond, with some guards stationed there. When they saw him, one of the guards said, "You're awake, you should rest for now." "Where are we?" asked Lin Feng. "Yu Ministry buildings, Miss Yu's residence," said the guard calmly. A lady's residence, there was only an ordinary guard, and on top of that he told Lin Feng to rest. "I'm going out," said Lin Feng calmly, continuing forwards. However, the guard blocked him and said icily, "Before Miss Yu wakes up, you're staying here." Lin Feng frowned. He remembered that he had taken a woman in his arms just before losing consciousness. She had something to protect herself, so he had used her item and jumped into the lights. Was the guard talking about that woman? "Are we in godly clouds?" asked Lin Feng. Even though he knew it, he wanted to make sure. "Godly clouds, Qingshan City," answered the guard. "I'm in godly clouds." Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. He had to find a way to leave, to go find Mu Chen. "Stay here." When the guard saw that Lin Feng wanted to leave, he looked angry. Lin Feng grunted icily. He wanted to force his way through, but at that moment, there was a whistling of rapid movement. A group of people appeared. The woman was among them. The woman landed in front of Lin Feng and ground her teeth. She said icily, "Shameless bastard. I had no choice, otherwise I would have died. Please forgive me," said Lin Feng. He had almost died, he hadn't had time to think. "Yu Yi, since you don't know him, then," a young man next to the young woman said icily. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. However, Yu Yi ignored him and said to Lin Feng, "You can leave, but first give me the Great Imperial Talisman." Lin Feng looked unhappy and said, "Your friends took all my rings, and you want my Great Imperial Talisman? Did that happen?" Yu Yi asked the young men next to her icily. He replied, "Uncle took his rings. He was waiting for you to wake up to make a decision." "Let's go and see my father," said Yu Yi. She turned to Lin Feng and told him, "Come with me." The group of people headed towards a palace. A middle-aged man was within, looking at a deployment talisman. The one who had carved that talisman was extremely strong. The talisman in front of him was the talisman Lin Feng had carved. He had found it by crushing one of Lin Feng's rings after inspecting his memories. Lin Feng had to be a great scholar. Chapter 2094. Deployment spell family. Yu Kuan focused and put his godly awareness in the talisman and inspected the marks, asking, "Did you get this from that little boy?" "Indeed. Miss Yu hasn't woken up yet. Maybe they know one another, but we took the ring anyway," replied the other one. "When Yu Yi wakes up, tell her to come to me," said Yu Kuan. As he was talking, the group of people had already landed out of the palace and a voice came to his ears, "Father." "Oh, I was just talking about you, and now you're here." Yu Kuan smiled. He looked out of the window and saw them come. Deployment talisman. Yu Yi looked at the deployment talisman in Yu Kuan's hand. "Hey, little Yi, look," said Yu Kuan, giving the talisman to Yu Yi. Yu Yi took it and put her godly awareness inside, her expression changing. She said, "Those deployment marks are so complex. The one who carved that talisman is extremely strong. Did you do that?" Yu Kuan shook his head and looked at Lin Feng. He asked, "Little boy, are you from a clan or sect of deployment spellcasters?" Lin Feng's hair bristled. These people were shameless. They had inspected his rings and taken things out. Luckily, he hadn't put anything too important inside, but there were many ancient scriptures within them. "It's him," said Yi, pointing at Lin Feng. Then she remembered something and said, "Is that the talisman you got at the auction house? You just polished it a little bit, right? The essence was already very thick inside, right?" Yu Yi was convinced that Lin Feng had no knowledge of deployment spells. She was from a family of deployment spellcasters. They were extremely strong, yet many of their people couldn't carve such good deployment talismans. Even her father, who was a great scholar, couldn't carve such perfect talismans. It was extremely difficult. "Kind of, maybe," replied Lin Feng evenly before asking, "Will you give me back my things?" "I don't care about your items, but first tell me who helped you carve that talisman." "The essence was useless. It was like blank paper." "The one who carved the talisman is incredible," said Yu Kuan calmly. Lin Feng's eyes glittered. If he told them the truth, they weren't going to let him go. He replied, "My teacher helped me." "Your teacher?" Yu Kuan's eyes twinkled. He had guessed so. "Did your teacher come with you on the ship?" Yu Kuan asked Lin Feng politely. Lin Feng was some great scholar's disciple. They could establish good relations. It was difficult to get ship tickets. "I just bought one. My teacher got one, but for a different date. He should be here too now," replied Lin Feng. "I see. What's your name?" asked Yu Kuan, smiling at Lin Feng politely. "Lin Feng." "Oh, Lin Feng, please be our guest. When your teacher comes, he should come here," said Yu Kuan amiably, and then glanced at Yu Yi. "Little Yi, be nice to Lin Feng." Yu Yi looked surprised. Her father wanted to invite Lin Feng and his teacher. She had underestimated him. From what her father had just said, no matter what Lin Feng had said or done to her before, it wasn't important. The most important thing was to get to know him and be friends with him. "All right, father," said Yu Yi, glancing at Lin Feng. She remembered that Lin Feng had so many ancient scriptures. He had bought so many things in the auction house. So initially his teacher was a great scholar. No wonder he was so rich. Deployment spellcasters could sell things to others and obtain great items. Buying things was easy for someone wealthy. She was from a clan of deployment spellcasters, so she understood the principle. "Lin Feng, take your rings." "Little Yi, give the talisman back to Lin Feng," ordered Yu Kuan, returning Lin Feng's rings to him. Lin Feng took them and re-established a connection to them. Then he put all his other rings in one ring. "Lin Feng, let's go," said Yu Yi to Lin Feng. She had a strange feeling, but she controlled herself and didn't mention it. After all, Lin Feng's teacher had to be a great scholar in the field of deployment spells. All right. Lin Feng wanted to leave too. Now, nobody was going to stop him. He was happy. However, those next to Yu Yi were furious. This guy was surprisingly from a clan of deployment spellcasters. They couldn't do anything to him. If they knew that Lin Feng had made the talisman himself, how would these people have reacted? "I want to go out," said Lin Feng to Yu Yi after they left the palace. "All right, I'll take you out." Yu Yi rose up into the air and glanced around, then she pointed out to Lin Feng, "This is my clan's territory, the Yu clan. We are one of the two strongest clans in Qingshan City. We are a clan of deployment spellcasters. We've existed for 10,000 years. Apart from our territory, we have many deployment mines. Deployment mines? Lin Feng didn't understand. What was a deployment mine? You've never heard of deployment mines in the Dark Knight region? Asked Yui, curious. I haven't, said Lin Feng. I'll take you to see one when we have time, Yi smiled. After a short time, they had left the Yu Ministry area. Lin Feng said to Yi, I want to go out on my own. Yi was surprised, but she smiled and nodded, all right. If you need anything, come to our clan. Here, this is my jade talisman. All right. Lin Feng nodded and took it. They exchanged their godly awareness talismans and then Lin Feng departed. I'll take Ho Qing Lin out and then we'll look for Mu Chen. Lin Feng glanced around and then flitted away. He found a place with nobody around quickly enough, and then Ho Qing Lin and the others appeared around him. Lin Feng. Ho Qing Lin looked to him and asked, Are we in godly clouds? Yes, godly clouds, Qingshan City. Where's Mu Chen? Asked Lin Feng urgently. Ho Qing Lin nodded and took out the soul-locking bells, rising up into the air. The bells rang and the sound spread out softly. That way. I don't know how far though, stated Ho Qing Lin. A boat appeared and Lin Feng and his friends hopped aboard, following the signal of the soul-locking bells. Lin Feng didn't intend to go back to the Yu clan, he just wanted to find Mu Chen. The air whistled past them as the ship streaked across the sky of Qingshan City. The soul-locking bells rang louder and louder. Ho Qing Lin was startled, as in front of them, a vast palace appeared. It was a rich clan's mansion house. Lin Feng, stop. Ho Qing Lin said suddenly. His eyebrows looked as sharp as swords. Lin Feng sensed something and stopped quickly. The bells were ringing louder and louder. The signal pointed to the mansion house in front of them. Go! Ho Qing Lin threw out the soul-locking bells, which turned into a beam of light. Lin Feng and the others stared after them. Very quickly, the bells entered the mansion house. Lin Feng and the others followed the bells. In order not to draw people's attention, they were flying up in the clouds. Ho Qing Lin and Lin Feng remained silent. They had the feeling that Mu Chen was in the mansion. As expected, the bells entered a black tower. The bells were ringing so loud that it made their souls shake. Black Tower, Mu Chen. Ho Qing Lin was grim as he said, Mu Chen is in the Black Tower. Lin Feng and the others shivered. At that moment, a group of strong cultivators started chasing the soul-locking bells. Lin Feng said, Brother, recall the soul-locking bells. All right. Ho Qing Lin nodded and recalled the soul-locking bells. The strong cultivators followed them. The soul-locking bells returned to Ho Qing Lin, and the strong cultivators noticed them. Who are you? The leader of the group asked Lin Feng and the others icily. We're just passengers. We didn't want to disturb you. Sorry, replied Ho Qing Lin, looking calm and composed. These men were all great emperors. What was that thing? Asked that person icily. An ordinary toy we were playing with. Sorry for having disturbed you. We're leaving, said Ho Qing Lin with a courteous wave, and then he ordered, Let's go. They left, but they were furious. They wanted to go into the tower and force the way, but it was too risky. Chapter 2095. Tower of Torture. Ho Qing Lin and the others departed quickly. The men from the tower didn't try to ask them anything else. After all, Lin Feng and the others' chi looked extraordinary. They might have a powerful background. After leaving, Lin Feng and the others finally let their fury show. Brother, are you sure Mu Chen is in that black tower? Asked Ruoxie coolly. If the signal of the soul-locking bells is right, then he should be in there. He's probably imprisoned, Ho Qing Lin replied grimly. Let's go. Let's investigate first. Since he's been imprisoned by a powerful group, maybe some people know about him in the region, suggested Tian Qi. He was trying to control himself. Everybody nodded agreement. Then, they descended from the sky and found a pub with many people. They all decided to sit down at different tables where there were people already. Lin Feng found a table and asked to those who were seated there, Can I sit here? That person looked at Lin Feng, smiled and said, "Please do." Lin Feng sat down and glanced around. Then, he whispered, "I came to Qingshan City because I want to learn more about this place. There is an imposing and magnificent mansion house over there. Whose house is it?" Lin Feng pointed at the black tower in the horizon out of the window. Lin Feng's interlocutor smiled and said, "My boy, it definitely is your first time in Qingshan City. It's the Jing clan." "Is the Jing clan very strong?" asked Lin Feng. "Of course. Qingshan City is an ordinary city in godly clouds. There are only a few powerful clans here, but the Jing clan and the Yu clan are the strongest clans in town. They are both families of deployment spellcasters. And let me tell you, in the last 100 years, the Jing clan had become much stronger than the Yu clan. There's now a huge gap between them. If the descendants of the Yu clan don't make efforts, the Jing clan will crush them someday," whispered that person. Even though everybody knew that in Qingshan City, saying that loudly could make others unhappy. Yu clan, deployment spellcaster. Lin Feng was stupefied. The Yu clan was precisely Yu Ye's clan. Lin Feng actually knew them. "Does the Jing clan have saint emperors?" asked Lin Feng. "Naturally. According to legends, there are 6 saint emperors in Qingshan City, spread over 4 clans. The Jing clan and the Yu clan have 2 saint emperors each, the 2 others clans a saint emperor each. Maybe there are some others but that I don't know about them," said Lin Feng's informant happily. He was happy to chat with someone, and this kind of stuff was hardly secret anyway. Lin Feng could evaluate the situation approximately. 2 saint emperors each, so he had to use the power of a saint. Tiantai's disciples couldn't rescue Mu Chen. Lin Feng didn't know if he could fight using Qin Shan's body again. If he did, it meant taking the risk of destroying Qin Shan's consciousness and body, as well as his own. In the worst case, Mu Chen is imprisoned by the Jing clan and they are not willing to release him, in which case I'd have to use the saint's power, thought Lin Feng. He asked, "Have you ever heard of Mu Chen?" Mu Chen. When he heard Lin Feng's question, the other man's expression changed in a strange way, especially since Lin Feng had asked him whether the Jing clan was strong or not. "Do you know Mu Chen?" asked that person. "I don't know him. I've heard many people talk about the Jing clan and Mu Chen. I was wondering who he was?" asked Lin Feng, trying to remain composed. He even smiled indifferently. He wanted to see the man's reaction. Mu Chen is a little bit famous in Qingshan City, so it's normal that people are talking about him. I guess I can tell you about him," the other man smiled. "Thank you very much," Lin Feng said politely. "To be honest, we have to admit that Mu Chen is incredible. He's not a young man, but he's a high-level emperor already, and his fighting abilities are incredible. His soul strength is terrifyingly powerful. But there are many strong people in Qingshan City. When talking about Mu Chen, you have to mention someone else, Jing Xiaoyu. She's well-mannered, pretty, and polished, as well as elegant and free from vulgarity. She's also extremely strong and talented, especially when it comes to deployment spells. Also, she's not even 40 yet, and is at her prime. Many people wish they could get married to her. However, she surprisingly fell in love with Mu Chen, which perplexes everyone despite much thought. Even though cultivators can live for a very long time and age doesn't matter in terms of love, those two really don't belong to the same world, so it's strange for them to be in a relationship. Don't you think? Explained the man. He didn't understand what was going on. However, Lin Feng shivered. Mu Chen had fallen in love with someone again. She was probably extremely beautiful. However, people in the cultivation world were often extremely parochial. Mu Chen had charisma. It wasn't surprising that a woman had fallen in love with him. Lin Feng and the other disciples respected him regardless. "What happened after that?" asked Lin Feng. "After that, many things happened. Mu Chen killed many members of the Jing clan. They were furious and wanted to kill Mu Chen. They injured him, but then Jing Xiaoyu threatened to kill herself if they killed him. The Jing clan didn't dare kill him, as Jing Xiaoyu holds a special position in her clan. She's extremely strong and her close relatives, such as her brothers and her father, are all extraordinary. She's important to her clan. She can't die, so Mu Chen can't die either." "So they imprisoned him?" Lin Feng was furious and blurted that out unthinkingly. However, his interlocutor was surprised and said, "Imprisoned? I don't think so. I think they gave Jing Xiaoyu and Mu Chen an opportunity." "What opportunity?" asked Lin Feng. "To fight over a deployment mine," said that person. "In Qingshan City, there are some very important deployment mines which are very useful for clans of deployment spellcasters. Therefore, there are 4 clans which keep competing over them, especially the Jing clan and the Yu clan. The competition between them is fierce, each time many people die when they fight over them. Right now, the Jing clan is the strongest clan. They are slowly dominating the Yu clan. Therefore, the Jing clan wants to gain control of the 4 major deployment mines. Right now, each of the 4 clans guard 1 deployment mine. The Jing clan wants to get the deployment mines of the 3 other clans, but they naturally don't agree, right?" said Lin Feng. He wasn't worried about the deployment mines, he was worried about Mu Chen. Indeed, the 3 clans are all angry at the Jing clan. They have fought many times. However, they have not managed to prevent the Jing clan from expanding. Eventually they agreed on something, using young people to determine to whom the deployment mines belong. If anyone loses, they must give up their deployment mine, including the Jing clan. "So the Jing clan can't use the same batch of people?" asked Lin Feng. If using the same batch of people was possible, the Jing clan could use their strongest cultivators and steal all the deployment mines. After all, according to what this guy had said, the Jing clan had the advantage. Indeed, the 4 clans protect their own deployment mine. If they are strong enough, they can also steal the Jing clan's deployment mine, which is also the best one, replied his informant. The Jing clan wants Mu Chen to help them steal a deployment mine? Indeed, the Jing clan and Mu Chen agreed that if he could help steal the Yu clan's deployment mine, they would accept his relationship with Jing Xiaoyu. But Mu Chen might die there. The Yu clan isn't ready to give up. Maybe they won't try to steal the Jing clan's deployment mine, but at least they'll do all they can to keep their own. The 2 others are the same. They all invited some extremely strong young people to help them out. Lin Feng pulled a long face. The Jing clan wanted Mu Chen to help them, but he was imprisoned. What was that supposed to mean? Lin Feng's interlocutor didn't seem to know that Mu Chen was in the Jing clan. It probably proved that he was imprisoned. Can other people still participate and help the clans fight for the deployment mines? I think so. The Jing clan is the most powerful clan of deployment spellcasters. They want to expand more anyway, replied the fellow. I understand. Thank you very much for all those pieces of information, brother. Oh, do you know what the Jing clan's Black Tower is? Asked Lin Feng. You mean the Black Tower in which they torture people? People who are imprisoned there never come out, replied his interlocutor. Lin Feng frowned and his eyes glittered icily. The Jing clan didn't intend to let Mu Chen participate in the competition for the deployment mines, it was just an excuse. He was in the Black Tower which nobody ever came out of. Chapter 2096 Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. Lin Feng and Tiantai's people left the restaurant. They exchanged the pieces of information they had obtained in there. The gossipers hadn't lied, it would have been pointless. Everybody knew about what was going on in Qingshan City, only strangers like them didn't. The case was actually quite simple. The Jing clan had deceived Jing Xiaoyu and imprisoned Mu Chen. They were lying and saying that Mu Chen was going to participate to the deployment mine competition. They made it seem like a perfect opportunity for Mu Chen. But actually, they didn't intend to release Mu Chen at all. He was in the Black Tower, doomed to never see the sky again. A bunch of bastards. What should we do? Asked Tiantai, righteously indignant. His eyes were gleaming. Even though he had never seen Mu Chen, Tiantai's disciples all respected him as a founder, just like Emperor Yu. Mu Chen was one of the 2 founders of Tiantai, and they were all descendants. Brothers, do you know the 4 clans? Lin Feng asked everyone. Of course. The Jing clan imprisoned Mu Chen. They are the strongest clan, having surpassed the Yu clan. The 2 other clans, the Luo clan and the Hong clan, have joined hands. Lin Feng, what do you think? Ho Qing Lin said to Lin Feng. Ho Qing Lin, bring some people to the Luo clan. Ruoxia, bring some people to the Hong clan. Tan Tai and I will go to the Yu clan and will help them. Ho Qing Ling, if possible, don't attack. Bring Ruo Xie, and after the competition, we'll go to the Jing clan's deployment mine and put pressure on them, Lin Feng said slowly. Everybody was startled at his idea. Ruo Xie said, will it not produce the opposite of the desired result if we collaborate with the Jing clan? How can we save Muchen that way? The 4 clans want to protect their deployment mines. If we help them, they'll be happy. At that moment, when we steal the deployment mine from the Jing clan will release him and will stop. The other 3 clans won't mind. If they don't, we'll keep the deployment mine and they won't be happy. If the Jing clan doesn't respect the agreement, the 3 other clans will start fighting against them and then we'll have the opportunity to rescue Muchen using other methods, said Lin Feng calmly. If we help the Jing clan steal all the deployment mines, will they release Muchen? Asked Ban Ruo. They won't. The Jing clan think the 3 other clans are weak and stupid. We just want to help them to make things look perfect. The Jing clan is strong, so if we help them win, they won't be touched, and the teams we've just agreed to are just temporary, they may change at some point, said Lin Feng. Everybody nodded. The Jing clan was powerful and extremely conceited. If they provided the Jing clan with timely help and jumped on the bandwagon, the Jing clan wouldn't care, they'd just use them temporarily. Since it's that way, let's separate. Keep in touch using jade talismans, said Ho Qing Lin. All right. They all separated in teams and moved in different directions. Lin Feng and Tan Tai left together and headed back to the Yu clan. He hadn't thought he'd return at all. Tan Tai, how strong are you now? Asked Lin Feng to Tan Tai. He hadn't seen Tan Tai for a few years. He hadn't had time to chat with his friends as much. He didn't even know how strong they had become. Lin Feng had to understand that to assess the situation. Hee. When Tan Tai heard Lin Feng, he smiled. He looked particularly self-confident. He said, the celestial evolution holy scriptures are extremely powerful. I used to think I wasn't strong enough, but after studying the celestial evolution holy scriptures, my physical strength suddenly started changing. I can make strength condense in a perfect way and my strength is now explosive. Besides, you know what kind of Tao I understand now, strength Tao. Maybe I'm not fast enough, but I'm monstrously strong physically, Tan Tai said confidently. Grand talents matured slowly among his people. After meeting Lin Feng and the others, he had started becoming much stronger. Because he had the impression it was never enough, he kept studying hard, step by step. Lin Feng nodded. He knew Tan Tai was an expert when it came to physical strength. With his strength Tao power, his attacks were probably exceedingly dangerous. Lin Feng had no doubts about that. He had transmitted the ancient holy techniques to his friends as well. Even though they hadn't received them directly from the saints, it was still better than nothing. When they arrived back at the Yu clan, Lin Feng went to find Yu Yi. When she saw Tan Tai, Yu Yi was surprised. How come Lin Feng had a new friend? She had noticed he was alone on the ship. Lin Feng, who is this? A friend of mine. My teacher doesn't have only one disciple, Lin Feng smiled. At the mention of his teacher, Yu Ye's beautiful eyes twinkled. So your teacher is in town too? He's in godly clouds. If he wants to see me, he'll find me, replied Lin Feng. Lin Feng, little brother, don't forget to tell your teacher about me. At that moment, Yu Kuan arrived and said happily. Of course, Lin Feng said to Yu Kuan. On his side, there were strong cultivators, including great emperors of different ages and talents. There could be huge age differences between great emperors. That's the great scholar's disciple? Asked a new person, looking at Lin Feng indifferently. Indeed. His teacher carved that talisman. It gave me cold sweats, said Yu Kuan smiled. How strong. So Lin Feng's deployment spell abilities must be incredible too, said that person, smiling politely at Lin Feng. Tan Tai remained silent. He wasn't like that in the past. Even though he was still impulsive, he had finally learned how to control himself. He just remained silent and smiled coldly on the inside. Lin Feng's deployment spells were terrifying, and those people dared talk this way in front of him? I'm all right, said Lin Feng, not minding them and smiling non-committedly. Okay, you're a young and outstanding man, and a high-level emperor already. Your teacher must be really good, another man smiled. And you, how good are you when it comes to deployment spells in comparison with you, Lin? Someone else asked in amusement. In comparison with you, Lin? Many of those around shook their heads, as if the answer were obvious. Let's go. He's almost here. Yes. Little Yi, stay with Lin Feng, Yu Kuan said, nodding at Lin Feng. He left with the group of people. Yu Yi, let's go and welcome him. At that moment, a young man had arrived behind Yi. Yi looked at Lin Feng and Lin Feng nodded, don't worry about me. It's all right, Yu Lin is coming back today, we can go and see him too, said Yu Yi, smiling at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was surprised. It seemed that this Yu Lin had a high social status within the Yu clan. Even great emperors came to greet him. They started walking as Yu Yi explained to Lin Feng. Yu Lin is extremely strong. He's the best deployment spellcaster of the clan, very talented. He's practicing cultivation in the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. If the Yu clan wasn't facing difficulties, he wouldn't have come back. No wonder that the Yu clan attaches importance to him, if he's such a skilled deployment spellcaster, thought Lin Feng. Lin Feng, you're from the Dark Knight region, you have never heard of the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry, I guess? The Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry has trained some people who have become great deployment masters, who corresponds to saints in terms of cultivation. To practice cultivation in the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry, being a powerful cultivator isn't enough, you must also be an incredible deployment spellcaster, she explained. Lin Feng thought that it was no wonder that Godly Clouds was the center of the continent and that they were the strongest region. The Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry amazingly had great deployment masters. Yu Lin is getting closer and closer to becoming a great scholar. But our clan has problems. So we asked the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry to send him back to us temporarily. Yu Lin also brought back a friend with him. He's also a strong person from the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. This way, nobody can pose a threat to us, whispered Yi. Lin Feng understood that she was talking about the Jing clan and the other two clans. Lin Feng now understood why Yu Kuan and the great emperors had gone to greet them. Yu Lin and his friend were probably extraordinary people. But the Jing clan was the most powerful clan, so at the same level, their young cultivators could defeat the young people of the Yu clan. The Jing clan probably had people like Yu Lin as well, or even stronger. Godly Clouds has talented individuals in hiding, so at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, many vied for supremacy. Many geniuses from everywhere in the continent of the 9 clouds gathered in Godly Clouds. Yu Lin is here, said a young man next to Yu Yi at that moment. In the distant sky, 2 cultivators appeared riding beasts. The beasts were marvelous. Rhinoceroses which had the blood of blood dragons. One could see they were incredibly powerful with just a glance. The 2 cultivators riding them looked astonishingly strong. They were precisely Yu Lin and his fellow disciple. Chapter 2097, Battle in the Dark. Yu Yi and everyone else were watching at Yu Lin. Lin Feng looked at the young men next to Yu Yi, noting their eyes were filled with admiration and respect. When the difference between them and other people wasn't big, they were jealous, but when the difference between them and other people was huge, they looked at them with respect and admiration. Yu Lin was the strongest young man of their clan both in terms of deployment spells and strength. Yu Yi beamed, her admiration evident. Yu Lin. At that moment Yu Kuan and the others stepped forwards, and Yu Lin and his friend descended from the sky. Uncle Kuan, said Yu Lin to Yu Kuan, then he introduced his friend. This is my fellow disciple, Su Mu. Little Su Mu, welcome to our Yu clan. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling, said Yu Kuan with a smile. Uncle Kuan, you're too polite. Yu Lin and I are like brothers. I'm happy to help him, returned Su Mu calmly. The members of the Yu clan all nodded happily, glad to see both of them. In Godly Clouds or in the Dark Knight region, everybody respected geniuses and talented people. At that moment, Yu Lin walked over to Yu Yi and smiled easily. Brother Yu Lin, Yu Yi smiled. She took a few steps forwards to greet him. Yu Yi, you're becoming more and more beautiful, Yu Lin smiled. He took a step forwards and caressed her cheek and smiled. Come, little Yi, let me introduce you my friend, Su Mu. Brother Su Mu, Yu Yi greeted Su Mu. Her beautiful eyes were filled with esteem and respect. Su Mu was Yu Lin's friend and had come to the Yu clan, which meant he was also very talented. She knew how strong people from the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry were. Yu Lin told me how beautiful his little sister was. Now that I see you, I can confirm. Unfortunately, there aren't many women in the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. If you could join us, that would be great, said Su Mu grinned back at her. Brother Su Mu, you're joking. I'm not talented enough. How could I become a member of the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry? Replied Yu Yi. She didn't lie, as even though she was talented, she knew she wasn't talented enough to become a member of the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. After all, that was a place where you could see great deployment masters. No matter what a person's social status was, talent was the most important thing. We can exchange a lot this time. Maybe you will suddenly improve and meet the requirements to join the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. Su Mu smiled. When Yu Yi heard Su Mu, she beamed happily and said, Thank you very much, Brother Su Mu. We can exchange views on various things, just don't give up halfway. We won't have time to fall in love though, said Su Mu jokingly. Yu Kuen's eyes flashed. He wanted to say something, but Yu Lin whispered, Uncle Kuen, she isn't a teenager anymore. Brother Su Mu is extraordinarily talented. She should cherish this opportunity. All right, Yu Lin. Then you can help, Yu Kuen grinned. Yu Lin wanted to act as a middleman. Of course, Yu Lin nodded. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng and Tan Tai, next to Yi. He asked, Uncle Kuen, I don't know those two people. Are they from the Yu clan too? Why are they standing so close to little Yi? They aren't. Lin Feng and Yi got to know one another in the Dark Night region. They met by accident on the way back to Godly Clouds. His teacher is a great scholar. That's why I told you Yi to get close to him, said Yu Kuen using telepathy. His teacher is just a great scholar? Brother Su Mu became a great scholar when he was 5 years old. Uncle Kuen, in the future, don't let little Yi hang out with him, otherwise Brother Su Mu won't be happy and it might ruin everything. Brother Su Mu seems to be interested in little Yi, replied Yu Lin. He was from the Yu clan. He hoped Yu Yi could enter a better clan. Su Mu was talented, every bit as strong as himself. He hoped they could become a couple. Alright, good. I'll tell her to stay away from him, then. Yu Kuen nodded. Yu Lin didn't add anything else. He didn't spend too much time on Lin Feng. Even though great scholars could be beneficial for the Yu clan, to someone from the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry, a great scholar wasn't important. They had too many. Some people there of the same age were as strong as he was and were already great scholars. Therefore, Yu Lin didn't care about Lin Feng's teacher being a great scholar. Even as Su Mu and Yu Lin arrived, there were also 3 young people chatting in a palace in the Jing clan. Yu Lin arrived? Asked one of the young men to someone entering the main hall. Yu Lin and Su Mu, replied the man. Su Mu and Yu Lin are good friends. But the Yu clan are too naive. They think they can prevent us from getting their deployment mine? Said Jing Yen calmly. He sounded self-confident, as if the situation was perfectly under control. Brother, Yu Lin, that little boy, opposed our brother in the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. The Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry can't do much against him. We should teach him a good lesson, said a young man standing in a lower position, smiling at Jing Yen. He was also from the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. The Jing clan and the Yu clan were both families of deployment spellcasters. Their most outstanding descendants all went to the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry to practice cultivation. Yu Lin and Su Mu are not easy targets. We have to be vigilant. Don't ruin the plans. Unfortunately, our friend hasn't come. Otherwise, we would have easily invaded all the deployment mines, Jing Yen said calmly. He's doing all he can to get ready for the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. We should be happy for him. If he had come, we would have crushed everyone. Everyone nodded. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds was extremely important for everyone. The most outstanding people of the whole continent were getting ready for the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. At the same time, apart from the Jing clan and the Yu clan, the 2 other clans were also getting ready for the competition over the deployment mines. Ho Qing Lin and Tian Qi had already managed to infiltrate those groups. The clans were happy to receive some help, and coupled with the geniuses they had invited, keeping their deployment mines would be no problem. They all understood that the biggest competition was between the Yu clan and the Jing clan. They just hoped that the Yu clan would be able to protect themselves and would prevent the Jing clan from taking another step forwards. Otherwise, the Jing clan would also start putting pressure on them. The Jing clan had wild ambitions. Everybody in Qingshan City knew that. Everybody in Qingshan City paid attention to those clans, wondering if the Jing clan would succeed. After Yu Lin and Su Mu arrived, Yi Yi stopped spending time with Lin Feng. Sometimes, Lin Feng saw her with Su Mu, but a new girl had started spending time with them, Yu Xin. Even though Yu Xin wasn't as beautiful as Yu Yi, she was also quite pretty. She looked dainty and delicate, and was also extremely polite. Lin Feng had talked to her and had realized that she didn't have such a high position within the Yu clan. After Yu Lin had come back, things had changed. Lin Feng wasn't such a lucky find anymore. Of course, Lin Feng didn't care. On the contrary, he actually found Yu Xin more friendly. She was kinder and more honest. When Lin Feng didn't know something, he asked her directly and she always told him things clearly. Lin Feng, Tan Tai, and Yu Xin were walking on a path in the Yu clan and bumped into Yu Yi and Su Mu. When Yu Yi saw Lin Feng, she nodded at him and then looked away and continued talking to Su Mu. She looked extremely happy. Lin Feng overheard their conversation. Yu Yi wanted to bring Su Mu over to the Yu clan's deployment mine. Yu Yi had seemingly forgotten that she had promised to Lin Feng she would take him to the Yu clan's deployment mine. Of course, Lin Feng didn't care. Cared about Mu Chen. Lin Feng, what do you think? Asked Yu Xin, smiling at Lin Feng and watching the 2 people passing. They're a perfect match. Su Mu is a genius of the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry, and Yu Yi is extremely beautiful. They're perfect for one another, Lin Feng said very naturally. He did think they were a good match. Hi, I thought you'd be jealous. Yu Xin smiled. Why would I be? Said Lin Feng, shrugging and pinching Yu Xin's cheeks, which made her blush. She moved away and glanced at Lin Feng. Ha, you're funnier than Yu Yi, Lin Feng smiled, walking on. Yu Xin looked at Lin Feng's back and muttered, what kind of guy is this? You'll understand soon enough. Tan Tai laughed and followed Lin Feng with big strides. Yu Xin looked at the 2 friends and laughed. She quickly caught up with them and asked, Lin Feng, where are we going? We're going to the Yu clan's deployment mine, said Lin Feng calmly. He was very interested in the deployment mine. Chapter 2098. Deployment Battle in Qingshan City. There were 4 big deployment mines. The 2 biggest ones were the Jing clans and the Yu clans. Many deployment stones were dug out of there. Sometimes, there were even some very strange deployment stones. Deployment mines were extremely important to the families of deployment spellcasters. Therefore, they did all they could to protect them. The Yu clan was no exception. Lin Feng followed Yu Xin, and they eventually arrived in front of a gigantic mine. There were all kinds of strange stone formations formed into hills. Lin Feng realized how vast a deployment mine could be. It was basically a precious mountain range. Even though strong cultivators protected it, some people still managed to sneak in and steal stones sometimes. To such thieves, the Yu clan was ruthless. Lin Feng was standing before a mountain of stones and reached out to touch them. Some stones had marks, some of them seemed like they were alive. Cosmic energy kept filtering down, and that was with only 10% of the stones being empowered. How strange. How are they formed? Sighed Lin Feng. There are many precious resources in the continent, such as celestial medicinal herbs. These stones aren't that strange, they're quite natural. Of course, many of these stones are useless. Only 10% of them are useful, replied Yu Xin. Indeed. They're natural and some of them even have innate deployment marks. Even the impure ones seem to have deployment essence, so it's easy to carve deployment marks on them, Lin Feng said slowly. Yu Xen smiled. Yes, many people from my clan come to practice cultivation here and study deployment spells. At the same time, they use those impure stones to improve their skills. Lin Feng, I'll take you to the purest deployment mine. Yu Xen smiled. She grabbed Lin Feng's hand and rose up into the air. After a short time, they arrived in a part of the mine where the cosmic energies were extremely rich and thick. There were all sorts of deployment stones here. Some of them even seemed alive and had a rich vitality, with innate marks on some of them. Some of them had better deployment marks than a great scholar could carve. There are many strange things in the world of cultivation, mused Lin Feng. He walked up to a gigantic black stone with sharp spear marks on it. It contained intense dark cosmic energies, which oozed into the air around it. The spear was covered with deployment marks. It looked alive and real. It was ready to use to study deployment spells. How awesome! Tantai touched the deployment stone. Yu Xen kept giggling. She put her hand on it also, and cosmic energies pulsed out. A terrifying sharp chi welled up instantly. It felt like the deployment stone could explode at any time. How strong! I guess the Yu clan is ready to do anything to protect the deployment mine, said Lin Feng. Indeed. It is extremely important. Otherwise, my clan wouldn't have called Yu Lin back. They also wanted him to bring a friend back. The Jing clan can't win, replied Yu Xien. Lin Feng nodded when he heard her. He would have more chances to join them and make the Jing clan release Mu Chen this way. Lin Feng, your teacher is a great scholar. You must be good at casting deployment spells, right? Asked Yu Xen, smiling at Lin Feng. She was curious. I'm all right, said Lin Feng, smiling and shrugging. Yu Xen pursed her lips and asked, what does I'm all right mean? As they were talking, suddenly, the whistling of wind cutting came to their ears. Lin Feng, Tantai and Yu Xen turned gazed into the distance. A deadly energy dashed to the skies, as if a battle was happening. Some people are trying to plunder the mine. Yu Xien was suddenly enlightened and started running. Come, let's go and see. Lin Feng and the two others started running in the direction of the whistling. Many people were in the mine. Two people were having an explosive battle at that moment. Yu Lin. Lin Feng was stupefied. He was also in the deployment mine. Who's fighting against Yu Lin? Jing Ran, an extremely strong young man from the Jing clan. He's an expert in deployment spells and he's also from the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. Yu Xian's beautiful eyes were twinkling as she stared at the battle. The two cultivators were fighting indirectly, both standing away from one another and using deployment spells to fight. Jing Ran took a step forwards and some parts of the deployment mine exploded. Then he moved his hands rapidly. It looked like he was dancing. He kept carving things in the air with his 5 fingers. Some terrifyingly sharp chi streaked across the sky. The sword chi emitted whistling sounds and shot at Yu Lin. The earth and sky shook violently. Yu Lin grunted icily. He moved his hands and carved a great protection deployment spell. There was a crash and rumbling explosion as their forces met. More pieces of stones exploded and floated around in the air. Brother Yu Lin is extremely strong as expected, said Jing Ran, laughing heroically and loudly. He jumped around insanely and deployment stones kept exploding. Deployment marks kept intertwining with another around him. Die! Shouted Yu Lin explosively. The deployment mine kept exploding. Dust kept rising to the skies. A cloud of dust surrounded Yu Lin. Yu Lin looked at Jing Ran icily. A gigantic golden sword appeared and absorbed chi as Yu Lin shouted furiously. The gigantic sword absorbed what seemed like oceans of energies. Explosions began to erupt for it as it condensed power. The Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry really creates terrifying deployment spellcasters, thought Lin Feng when he saw those two people fight. Their deployment spells were really impressive. It was like they weren't even using their own strength because they were in a deployment mine. It was a perfect environment to fight using deployment spells. The battle was getting fiercer and fiercer. Lin Feng watched the battle with admiration. He thought, I also study deployment spells. Deployment cultivation is about deployment spells. However, I can't use deployment spells like they can. They make their deployment spells evolve to become direct attacks. They can also carry out various attacks using deployment spells. Of course, all sorts of deployment methods show homology and the energies show isology. If I studied and tried to make my godly awareness correspond to the cultivation of deployment spells, I would be able to do the same thing and cast deployment spells in the blink of an eye. Watching them battle made him understand lots of things. He also knew how to cast deployment spells, but it was different from these people. These people were also cultivators, but they practiced cultivation in a different tradition. Deployment spells and cultivation were fundamentally the same thing. Lin Feng had the sensation that if he managed to understand celestial deployment spells, he would also be able to become a great deployment master, which came down to being a saint on the path of deployment casting. Is Jing Ran the strongest young man of the Jing clan? Asked Lin Feng. He had the impression that Jing Ran was extremely strong, but that he was still weaker than Yu Lin. He's not. Yu Lin can easily oppress Jing Ran. However, the Jing clan does have a terrifying cultivator, Jing Yan. He can easily oppress Yu Lin. Jing Ran and Jing Yan are both members of the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. They are the two strongest cultivators of the Jing clan. Also, Jing Xiaoyu and the others are also extremely strong. That's why the Jing clan is rising in Qingshan City and wants to invade all the deployment mines, replied Yu Xian seriously. Lin Feng nodded his understanding. No wonder. The Jing clan also had some extremely strong cultivators in the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. Those people were experts in terms of deployment spells, even stronger than he was. They could resort to all kinds of strange tactics to battle. Alright, done for today. We'll exchange views soon again, Brother Yu Lin, said Jing Ran at that moment, and then he went winging off like a great rock. Jing Ran flew extremely fast, but he saw Lin Feng and the two others. He smiled opportunistically. He stretched out his hand, which crashed into a wall of the deployment mine. Explosions rang out and rock crackled as he made the whole mine shake. Umph! Tantai shouted icily and jumped forwards. However, Yu Xian's expression changed drastically. He didn't use his own strength, he used deployment spells. I'll go. Yu Xian jumped in front of Lin Feng and Tantai. She raised her hands and carved out deployment spells. Even though her deployment spells weren't as good as Jing Ran's, she wasn't a disgrace to the Yu clan. Jing Ran flitted away, and a gigantic spear shot towards her. It contained wind strength which darkened everything around it as it came at her. Yu Xian pulled a long face. She condensed some defensive strength to carve out a deployment spell. However, at the same time, Lin Feng carved fearsome intertwining deployment marks in front of her. Lin Feng sensed the strength of the deployment mine. It was a perfect place to cast deployment spells using the deployment essence of the mine. An explosive strength charged towards Yu Xian. Her defensive deployment spell blocked the attack, but it broke apart at the same time. At the same time, Jing Ran suddenly rose up into the air as strength emerged from the ground under his feet. Jing Ran looked at Lin Feng deeply. Even though Lin Feng was behind Yu Xian, Jing Ran knew that he had just intervened. Since when did the Yu clan have such a strong cultivator? Some other people from the Yu clan were astonished. How strong? How come Yu Xian's deployment spells were so powerful? Chapter 2099. Jing Xiaoyu. Yu Xian was stupefied. She hadn't cast that deployment spell. It had come from behind her. I'm sure we'll meet again, said Jing Ran before leaving. Under his feet, more deployment lights appeared, and he flashed away. The members of the Yu clan didn't bother chasing him. Their silhouettes flickered, and they appeared around Yu Xian. Yu Xian, your deployment spell was so powerful, said an old man to Yu Xian. Yes, even though it wasn't distinct, it blocked Jing Ran's attack. How strong? Yu Xian, we haven't spent too much time raising you, and you practiced really hard to become stronger. In the future, we'll give you even more help, said someone else. Yu Xian felt nervous and was surprised. She didn't understand what was going on. But Jing Ran is extremely strong. If the Jing clan focuses on us, it'll be difficult. Indeed. Jing Yen is also studying at the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry. Even though we invited Su Mu to come, we can't be sure that the Jing clan hasn't invited anyone either. It'll be difficult. The people of the Yu clan looked nervous and under pressure. They were nervous that the Jing clan was going to focus on them. Should we change the rules of the competition for the deployment mines? Battles of 5 people. That way, we'll have more chances to oppress the Jing clan. If they focus on us, we'll be able to use our full strength. If we join hands with the 2 other clans, we'll be able to oppress them, said Yu Lin audaciously. Everybody shivered. Changing the rules? That was audacious, but it was a good solution. We'll have to talk to the 2 other clans. We'll have to become closely related and mutually dependent. If we don't join hands and the Jing clan destroys us, the next ones will be them, said a member of the Yu clan. Everybody nodded and they quickly broke up. Yui glanced at Lin Feng and Yu Xian before leaving. Lin Feng was not essential to the Yu clan. They respected him, so if Lin Feng's teacher came, they'd be able to benefit from him. If his teacher didn't come, it didn't matter. Yu Xian turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Her eyes twinkled as she said, "Was it you just now?" Yes, Lin Feng nodded. He didn't hide the truth. If the Yu clan couldn't rely on themselves to oppress the Jing clan, Lin Feng was willing to help. At least, he wanted to oppress the Jing clan as much as he could. When Yu Xian saw him nod, she smiled and said, "Your deployment spells are so powerful?" I said I was all right. Lin Feng shrugged. He didn't really consider it important. It's not only all right, why didn't you tell them? They would respect you a bit more, said Yu Xian smiled. Why would I need them to be even more polite to me? I would feel uneasy, Lin Feng smiled. You don't need to tell them for now. If they want to give you resources, you can take them, and if they know in the future that it wasn't you, you can tell them I told you to say so they won't be able to take them back. You're a funny guy. Yu Xian smiled at Lin Feng, but now, I finally believe you when you said you didn't care about Yu Yi going out with Su Mu. You really didn't take it to heart. Lin Feng smiled calmly and said, "Let's go back too." All right. Yu Xian nodded and they left the deployment mine. At that moment, outside of the Yu clan's deployment mine, there was a woman calmly standing there and looking at the mine. The woman was wearing simple white clothes, which were fluttering in the wind. She looked simple and elegant and quite beautiful. She definitely stood out. That girl looks extraordinary, thought Lin Feng when he saw her. Yu Xian stopped. Lin Feng and Tantai stopped too. What's wrong? Lin Feng asked her. You know who she is? Yu Xian asked, smiling at Lin Feng. Is she very famous? Said Lin Feng. She's recently become famous. I admire her. She's talented and beautiful, but she's also a loving woman. She promised her clan that she was going to invade our deployment mine. I know what she's thinking, Yu Xian smiled. Lin Feng was startled as he thought of someone. Jing Xiaoyu? He asked. You know her too? Asked Yu Xian, surprised at him. She knew that Lin Feng was from the Dark Night region. How did he know so much about Qingshan City? As expected, thought Lin Feng. Jing Xiaoyu was the woman Mu Chen had fallen in love with. Because of her, Mu Chen was imprisoned in the Black Tower. Did she know that? If she knew. A strong wind started blowing and suddenly Lin Feng's silhouette disappeared. Yu Xian was shocked. Lin Feng appeared in front Jing Xiaoyu in the distance. Jing Xiaoyu raised her head and looked at Lin Feng calmly. Her white clothes still fluttered in the wind. She looked expressionless. Jing Xiaoyu? Asked Lin Feng slowly. Jing Xiaoyu took a step forwards and said, Move away. Lin Feng smiled, but he didn't move, he just stood there calmly. Jing Xiaoyu rose off the ground as it shook violently. The whole mine trembled. Threads of strength emerged from the ground and filled the air. Be careful, shouted Yu Xian to Lin Feng. Jing Xiaoyu was a genius from the Jing clan and extremely strong. Even if she wasn't as strong as Jing Yen, who studied at the Celestial Remarkable Deployment Ministry, she wasn't much weaker than him. Don't worry, Lin Feng will not hurt her, whispered Tantai to Yu Xian. Yu Xian's beautiful eyes twinkled. She looked at Tantai and frowned. She wasn't worried that Lin Feng was going to hurt her. Had Yu Xin underestimated Lin Feng? His deployment spells were powerful, but was he also an amazing fighter? Jing Xiaoyu flitted away as a gigantic cage appeared around Lin Feng. Jing Xiaoyu moved again as destructive strength suddenly emerged from the ground. Lin Feng rose up into the air as a spear appeared and shot towards him. Lin Feng shifted forwards and released cosmic energies, bearing down on everything. At the same time, Lin Feng struck the cage with a punch and it was instantly destroyed. Lin Feng jumped towards Jing Xiaoyu. In response, Jing Xiaoyu released a powerful strength. At the same time, fearsome deployment lights condensed. Milky Way lacerating technique. Yu Xian was stupefied. Jing Xiaoyu moved towards Lin Feng. Both were getting closer and closer to one another. Destructive strength kept gathering to them. Jing Xiaoyu's hand streaked across the sky and a galaxy appeared, cutting the sky in two. Lin Feng released Holy Spirit swords. The swords rotating in the sky and suddenly sliced through everything. The galaxy was sliced apart and disappeared. Lin Feng was now holding a sword which absorbed strength. Yu Xian's heart was pounding. How strong! Lin Feng's fighting abilities were incredible. He might be able to even defeat Yu Lin. Lin Feng's fighting abilities allowed him to compete with the strongest young person of the Yu clan. "Who are you?" asked Jing Xiaoyu, staring at Lin Feng. She noticed that Lin Feng was extremely strong. "You want to invade the Yu clan's deployment mine?" Lin Feng asked Jing Xiaoyu. Jing Xiaoyu frowned and said, "Indeed. I will, definitely." "Mu Chen won't show up. The Jing clan doesn't need you," said Lin Feng indifferently. Jing Xiaoyu frowned and looked nervous. "Mu Chen will show up. Even if I fight to death, so what?" "You don't understand. Go now," said Lin Feng calmly. He was happy. Jing Xiaoyu didn't know anything and she was still ready to fight to the death. Jing Xiaoyu stared at Lin Feng and asked, "You will stop me?" "Indeed." Lin Feng nodded. He was going to stop the Jing clan, of course. Jing Xiaoyu pulled a long face as Lin Feng said, "No matter who from the Jing clan attacks, they won't manage to get the Yu clan's deployment mine. Mu Chen won't show up either. Leave now." "What if he shows up?" said Jing Xiaoyu icily. "If he shows up, I'll help the Jing clan steal the deployment mine," said Lin Feng indifferently. "Go and tell the Jing clan that if he doesn't show up, not only won't they manage to steal the Yu clan's deployment mine, but they won't be able to protect their own either." When Jing Xiaoyu heard Lin Feng, she didn't understand because she didn't know who Lin Feng was. She also didn't know that Lin Feng and Mu Chen knew one another. Why would he help the Jing clan if Mu Chen showed up? And why would he steal the Jing clan's deployment mine if Mu Chen didn't appear? Jing Xiaoyu didn't understand. Yu Xian didn't understand either. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.